Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Arc Junkies podcast. I'm your host, Jason Becker, and joining me this week is Jason Marburger from Fireball Tools, and this episode is loaded. We get into the beef between Sigmund, Quantum, and Fireball fixture tables that's been blowing up on Instagram, why he drilled over 800 holes in his own vise to handicap it against a Wilton vise, and the grinding disc performance guide his team built after testing 65 types of flap discs. We also talk about the Cubitron 3, the cheapest disc that punches way above its weight class, and what's coming to FabTech 2026 in Las Vegas. Buckle up, it's going to be a good one. We'll get right into the episode after a quick word from our supporters. Today's episode of the Arc Junkies podcast is brought to you by the American Welding Society. Mark your calendars. The Welding Automation Exposition and Conference is going down June 2nd through the 4th at the Royal Sonesta, Minneapolis, downtown. Whether you're a welder, an engineer, or a shop owner trying to figure out where robotics and automation fit into your operation, this is the room you need to be in. 2.5 days of expert-led technical sessions, on-site demos, and direct access to folks building the future of welding. You walk away with 13 PDHs, perfect for CWI research, plus an optional plant tour worth another 3 PDHs. Use code word ARCJunkies at checkout to get 10% off your registration. Sign up now at aws.org/conferences. I'll see you in Minneapolis. We're also brought to you by Outlaw Leather. If you've ever stepped onto a job site or inside of a fab shop, you've seen their hoods. Pancakes, slimline shells, arm pads, and welding handles, all handcrafted of genuine leather right in Pasadena, Texas. No mass-produced junk, no shortcuts, just real leather, real craftsmanship, and real welding gear built by welders for welders. Whether you're upgrading your daily driver hood or going all out on a new one-of-a-kind custom build, Outlaw has you covered. Head on over to outlawleather.com and use code word ARCJunkies at checkout and save 15% off on all their in-stock handmade leather goods. Outlaw Leather, home of the original leather welding hood. We're also brought to you by BattleBox. Look, I've been a BattleBox subscriber since October, and I'm still in it. This isn't just some sponsor that came knocking on my door. I reached out to them because I was already getting boxes every month. I saw the value, and I wanted to share it with the listeners. A few things I've pulled out of my battle boxes that I actually use on a regular basis is a Tupic tent, SOG rescue shears, a full first aid kit from MyMedic, Tops knives, and PowerTac flashlights. And that's just scratching the surface. If you already spend money every month on knives, multi-tools, fire starters, and EDC gear, stop paying full retail. The Pro Plus tier averages over $287 in gear for under $170 a month. And before you tap out at the word subscription, you can skip a month or cancel at any time with just 30 seconds online. No phone calls, no hassle. Head on over to battlebox.com/ArcJunkies. That's BATTLBOX.com/ArcJunkies. And use ArcJunkies at checkout and save up to 30% off your first box. battlebox.com/ArcJunkies and use code word ArcJunkies at checkout. All right, you know what time it is. Fire up your machines, drop your hoods, and turn me up 5.
Thank you for downloading show number 400 of the Arc Junkies podcast.
Jason, welcome back to the Arc Junkies podcast, man.
Oh, thank you for having me. Like I said, once a year, this is awesome. I look forward to it.
Yeah, I know. We were wanting to do one like January because we were chatting at FabTech about getting you back on. You wanted to do like a whole series on fabrication and stuff like that, and then we were talking about doing like a Mystery Science 3000, or I can't remember the name of that show, Mystery Science episode, watching other people do fabrication and kind of provide commentary as it's going on.
I still want to do that, and we'll get into that a little bit later with the video that we're doing. But yeah, that's still in the works. We're doing it.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that one. But no, yeah. I've seen you stirred up quite the hornet's nest there on Instagram. I was like, man, I gotta talk to Jason about this with the whole Sigmund and Quantum and Fireball Tool beef that's going back and forth on the
Sure.
Instagram there.
Yeah. Uh, what was your first opinion of what you saw me showing? And then I'll kind of go into a little more detail. But I'd like to hear what your opinions from what you saw from your perspective.
From my perspective, like as somebody that has, like fabrication tables at the shop, um, I like the fact that you're kind of doing a side by side comparison price wise. Like, here's what you can get from company A for 17 grand. Here's what you can get from company B for 17 grand. And I think the part that really caught me was how much flexion was actually in the tables. Um,
Mm,
because I mean that's a big thing. That's why I want to use a fabrication table. I mean that's why when I was doing ironwork, we had the big weld sail plenum tables, or that we called them acorn tables. But they're massive, right? They've got like those big 2x2 squares in there, so it's hard to do small detailed work. But the reason I like a fabrication table is A, for layout, but I also want to be able to clamp things and hold things in place so that while I'm welding on them, back in the day, we used to like grab just scraps around the shop. We'd grab a scrap piece of angle iron, wedge it in place, tack it in there just to prevent material from drawing. But if I'm welding something up to a fixture table, I expect that fixture table to kind of hold the shape of the part that I'm welding on. So if there's that much deflection, that's going to transfer into the part, because at that point your part's going to be like the weakest part in the link. So I mean you would anticipate all that. So if the table's deflecting and pulling into the part, you're going to get
mhm,
deflection either in the table or in the part. You're not going to be able to hold everything true and square. And if you're spending that kind of money to hold and fixture things in place so that it doesn't draw or pull one way or the other, especially working with stainless, like I would kind of expect it to stay stationary, so
mhm.
that my parts are true when I get done with it.
Yeah. What you're experiencing is exactly what I discovered. Let's see, 8 years ago, I purchased all the fixture tables that I could get my hands on. I bought the Sigmund table 16, the Sigmund table 28, a Build Pro table, and that was about 8 years ago. I tested them all, and at this time, I did not have a Fireball table. I was designing a Fireball table and looking at all the others where their strengths and weaknesses were, but I ended up making a video on that. But what surprised me when I bought the Sigma table, I pulled it out of the box, and that's what surprised me the most. Was when I took it out and you grab onto it, it was like whoa, whoa, whoa. You could literally see it like flexing as I was pulling it out of the box, and then you're putting legs on it, and how much it was flexing and moving. And at this time, I was trying to be very polite in the review. What I mean by that is, I don't want to step on anybody's toes or offend anybody by giving any negative feedback. I tried to only stay positive and factual, but there was something in the back of my mind when I was comparing the side by side, of course, to the Bill Pro or the Acorn table, that wow, this table is super floppy. And when I paid the 10 grand for it, I was like, there's something not right about this. And I wasn't in a position social media wise to raise my hand and go, what's going on with this? I knew there's something that had to be positive because they're popular tables, but something was on the back of my mind. And then the title, "The World's Strongest, Most Durable Table Ever Made," was also part of their advertising. And I'm like, these two things are kind of strange. So naturally, as time goes by, I'm like, I'm starting to design my own table, and I'm just trying to design things that work. Like you said, I don't want it to flex like the Sigmund table. I'm trying to avoid all those things. But what ended up happening is, um, how do I explain this? I'm trying to sell my table now, right? And
Mhm.
I'm trying to not I'm trying to be the best in the sense, but I know that I can't win in all categories. What I mean by that is, when someone says I can't win on the world's strongest, because there's always going to be somebody to make a bigger, badder table. Hardness, that's one thing it's going to struggle on. Flatness, you can probably win. It's kind of like a Corvette in a sense. A Corvette, yeah, you can hit a 200-mile top speed, but is it good at taking the kids to soccer practice and loading it up with
Not
groceries?
horrible.
Probably not,
Horrible.
right? So when I see a claim like this, world's strongest, most durable welding tables ever made, I'm like instant questioning, right? Ever since day one. And I think you and I are iron workers, so we know when you're on a job site and somebody makes a funky claim like that, like I can spit further than you. And what's our first reaction? Prove it,
Yeah.
right? We so
Bet.
we, let's bet, let's see it. We have to show it. We have to prove it, right? So now that I'm in this space, I'm generating my own tests. I'm wanted testing my own tables because I want them to perform. If you know what I mean, like you said, I want my table to be flat. I want it has a certain set of conditions that I want it to do. And so then it led me back full circle again to why are they claiming this is the world's strongest? Obviously, um, they have some sort of benchmarks, right? How can they make these claims? And so that got me thinking, well, what tests are they doing? What tests are they performing? Did they compare that against another table? Who are they comparing it to? So I've just started raising a whole bunch of questions and then sharing them with the audience and with you guys. I like to share my tests with you guys, and naturally, I'm going to compare somebody else's too. So that's kind of where the beef came from. And then I'm listening to the customers, which means they're saying, Jason, I want you to test a 22 millimeter. I'm like, okay, let's test it. So let's try to get one. And and I'm still going through the battle of trying to get tables to test. I guess where it kind of almost stems from is I've worked really hard for my tools and equipment throughout my course of my career. I
Mhm.
and in a fixture table is a very expensive purchase. And what I'm hoping for is that the customer gets what they were looking for when they purchase such a large object, because our money isn't expendable, as we work for it. And it's a long-term purchase. So I want to be transparent with my customer saying, hey, this is what you're going to get. Here's our tests. Here's how flat it is. Here's what it's capable of. And here's its weaknesses. A good example of that is like cast iron. If you leave it out and it gets wet, it's going to rust, right? It's just what's going to happen. So I want my customers to be have expectations of that. But if you keep cast iron nice, it's going to be clean and maintained. So when I see these big claims, I just start questioning them and asking more questions. And that's kind of where the beef comes from, is my natural curiosity with that. And I just want the customer, like you said, I want you to, or the customer to purchase that and go, wow, why is this table flexing? Is this the way it's supposed to be? So what I'm hoping comes out of this is a set of standardized tests, if you know what I mean by that, or a number associated with the flex. What I mean is in 48 inches, how much three leg sag is there? Is it an inch? Which means is you remove one of the four legs, how much droop does it have? That should be a number, and it should be public on the website. So now the customer goes, wow, that has a 1 inch droop with a three leg sag. Let me question that. Or with this load on it, certain amount of weight on it, how much does it flex? So I'm kind of stirring up the hornet's nest a little bit, being curious. And I think we should have more numbers associated with these tables, not just flatness, but expectations associated with them, because they're just so expensive. You can't go backwards after you purchase it. So
They are, and like that's one of the things. Like you said, like I collect a lot of tools, and I think at the end of the day, I have a tool addiction, and that's my work supports my tool addiction. But
yeah,
I want to buy at this stage of my career, I want to buy high quality tools, and but I also need to know that those high quality tools, the where I'm going to spend my money, that I'm going to get what I'm looking for out of that tool.
yeah,
When I went to buy my saw, it was kind of price was one of the things that were holding me back, but also quality, durability, ease of use, reliability. Those were all things that I took into consider. Like how square of a cut can I actually get out of this saw? And
hmm
I actually ended up, because with, again, going back to price point budget, my budget was a little bit smaller, so I couldn't go out and buy a $70,000 brand new Mata automated CNC saw and all that stuff. But I ended up settling for, I didn't settle. I mean, like that's the saw I ended up wanting and seeking out, was the Marvel Mark 8 Series 2. because
Yep.
it's gear and belt driven. There's nothing that's going to go wrong. I don't have to worry about the electronics in there. I know I'm going to get a nice square cut. I know that the table is like, it's all cast steel. It has all the it's got that big vise on there, but it also has tracking in there, very similar to my end mill, where I
Hmm.
can clamp everything down. So like I took a lot of things into consideration when I bought that saw. Now, had I bought that saw and it, there was like waves in the tables, or the blade cut just a little bit skew, like that would not have
Yeah.
met the expectations for the
Yep.
price point that I was willing to pay. I'd have been very upset if I got it in. It was like, hey, I was expecting X, Y, and
Yep.
Z, and that's not what I got. So now here I am stuck with this saw, and I really can't use it for what I intended it. So
Oh,
like
okay.
I've already sunk the money into it. So you're right there. I mean, there should be tests and benchmarks and things like as far as like durability, reliability, ease of use,
Yep.
function, price point. I mean, you have to factor in all that stuff when you're buying tools.
Yeah. And I think that's just kind of where the beef is with Sigmund. Is like they're just claiming to be the perfect welding table, and I'm just like, I don't know of any engineered product that doesn't have some compromises to it. So I just would like the customer to have a clear view of what's happening, and that's why with we started Fireball started with a solid cast iron piece, and as customers are demanding more of something, then we create a new product, which means it's like we have a new X frame table which uses tool steel tops. So if somebody really wants something tool steel, we'll have a solution for that. But there's always a trade off, whether it be there's always something. We're going back to the Corvette. You want to do 200 miles per hour? Well, you're going to lose a passenger seat, some passenger seats, and it's going to be hard to get in and out of. There's always compromises. So here at Fireball, we're just listening to the customers and trying to give them what they want, and that's why I'm trying to be more performance orientated company, which means when um, when it comes to marketing, I want to do something for the customer. I want the customer to have, uh, I want to target things that help them make money. What I mean by that is, um, does it speed them up, and does it increase productivity? Those are what I want to focus on. And when I look at a Sigmund table, they focus on how hard is the table and where is it made. If you kind of so they put a lot of emphasis where it's made and how hard is the table. Well, are those two things going to help the customer actually make money in their process? I don't think so, right? I want rigidity. I want that table to be so hard and I want that table to be so rigid, so hard to flex that you could bend, push, pull. That's going to save somebody money because they can fix a project or be really flat so that the projects come out nice and straight. So I'm really trying to focus on performance and trying to give the customer the best bang for the buck dollar there is, even if it means I have to go out of country to do it, because I'm trying to pack as much features into it as possible. And if that means how do you keep the cost down at the same time? So it's a struggle balance. And like I said, all kind of stem from one little social media post where showing the difference between the Fireball leg and the Sigmund leg, and then that started blowing up. Here's this, here's that between us, but yeah, they currently do not want me to show their stuff or compare it to the Fireball, which is which is strange because they claim to be the world's strongest, most durable. Wouldn't you think that they would have no problem going up against any other table company? I guess that's where I find it strange. Like if it's really
You'd
truly
think
the best,
so.
let's go. So,
But I
but
think like a lot of welders or just tradespeople in general can relate because we've all seen the sticker, we've got the T-shirts, we got the sign hanging up in our shop, and it's
yeah,
basically like your rates as a welder. You can have it good, cheap, or fast. Pick two out of the three. If it's good and cheap, it's not going to be fast. If it's fast and cheap, it's not going to be good. So on and so forth.
yep,
So you got to figure out what areas you're willing to compromise in. And one of the things, like
yeah,
I'm a huge like buy America, buy once, cry once. Like I pay for quality. I would rather
hmm,
buy things that are made here in the US or even in Europe. Like next best option would be Europe.
sure,
But I mean, like you can't like there's so many companies have had to outsource just because of taxes associated with doing business in the US, labor
yeah,
shortages. As much as I hate to say it, like I as a business person, I understand it. hiring quality people to do the work. So I mean, you have to outsource some stuff. Like case in point, I bought some hats, right? And I had an event over Underground Metalworks prior to FabTech when it was in Orlando. And it's like, I'm going to buy 100 hats because all these people are showing up for, to Underground Metalworks for this like kind of party that I throw. I want to give everybody that comes out a hat. And so I found a nice union made here in the US quality hat company. And I was like, cool. Like, union iron worker. I was like, I'm going to buy union made here right here in America. And I bought them and the quality was not great. And like I
Hmm.
still have one. I don't even wear mine because the quality's not there. And it's like I could have spent a fraction of the cost and I could have bought it over in China and I would have had a better product. And
Yep.
it pisses me off to say that, but I mean that's the truth. I could have
Yeah.
got Richardson. Well, I don't know if Richardson's made in overseas, but like I could have got that type of quality in the hat with the embroidery and all that stuff done overseas cheaper and better than what I got it here stateside.
Yeah. Well, I've discovered that in this process too. We've talked about that. I'm extremely patriotic myself. I want everything to be made here in the United States if possible. But there's times and places where actually the best place to have it made because they're best is overseas. What I mean by that is, we'll just talk about China. China's a manufacturing superpower. They have tools and equipment and knowledge that we just can't have. We just don't have here in the States anymore. They are literally so good at what they do sometimes that it's hard to not be patriotic. I mean, how would I explain that? It's like to have that same tool made here is going to cost twice as much, and it's probably still isn't going to be exactly like you want. Is that where I want to see things going? No, I want to bring manufacturing back. And so we try to manufacture here as much as possible. But in all reality, sometimes the best place is overseas. It's just kind of the way it goes. So they get the best product at a price that everybody wants to afford. That's the next question is I can make everything here in the United States. Will people buy them? The simple answer is no. Fireball may not exist if I'm overpriced, just to put the USA made tag on it. So this is this internal struggle that I have every day. Every tool is how do I get it made? How do I keep the quality up? Who's going to make it? And how do I fulfill my or how do I help my customer get what they want? And so, like I said, we try to have stuff made in USA and stuff made overseas just to give the customer a choice or a decision. And we put it in the customer's hands. So to pick which one they want. That's my internal way of making myself feel comfortable. So,
Hmm.
but
Well, I
so
mean, you
that's
you
kind
have
of
to. I mean, if you do,
yeah,
unfortunately, if you make everything here in the United States, you're going to price yourself out of work
yeah,
because it's great. It's made in the United States. It's perfect. The tolerances are 100%. Aerospace quality, this, that, and the other thing. But guess what? It's out of my price range. It's out of my
yeah,
buddy's price range. This other shop down. Like at the end of the day, as a business owner, all this stuff comes down to price point. What is
yep,
it going to cost me? Because I have to pass that cost off to my customers. And if my
mm,
customers can't afford, my the level of my tool addiction because I want to be bougie and buy like nice stuff, I'm
yeah,
not going to have any clients at the end of the day. So
yep.
it's unfortunately that's one of the biggest selling points is the price.
Yep, but it is tough. Like I said, Sigmund likes to tote that their stuff's made in Germany and they're in Poland, and I think that's great. But at the same time, I'm like, what shouldn't be the focus? That shouldn't drive you from one design choice over the next. I think we should be looking at performance and base that decision because you're going to be stuck with it, and it
Yeah.
may not fulfill your needs. So that's just kind of what I'm trying to help people understand is let's look at the design and these fixture tables, they all look really similar. I mean, you walk the trade show and you just see tables with skirts on them with holes. And to the
Yep.
average person, they're all the same. But realistically, they perform much differently than each other. And that's just kind of what I'm trying to bring awareness to a little bit. So but it's kind of getting out of hand, out of proportion. Quantum wanted to do a challenge with me, and I think that's awesome. I look forward to that. But as of to this day, they called me out publicly, and then still haven't provided a venue or a place or a test or tests or where to send my table. Like literally, they just publicly said, "Hey, we're calling you out." and then that was it. And that was they just dropped it. So I'm
That
still
was going to be one of
curious
my
about.
questions because I had a student at my he took my week long class and then he came back for a weekend class and he was interested in buying a fireball table and he's like, man, did you see the feud between Jason with fireball tools and Sigmund? And I
Mhm.
was like, no, I seen Jason did some testing. He's like, oh no, you got to go check out Sigmund's or Quantum's their rebuttal
Mhm.
to it. And so I checked that out and I seen kind of where they were calling you out.
Yeah.
And then I think you had asked him in your follow-up video, hey, name the time and place and but tell me what we're going to be tested to. Like what's the
Yeah.
testing going to consist of? And I think after that I hadn't heard anything. So that was going to be one of my questions this evening is like have you guys come up with a time and place, a set of tests? Like have you heard back
No,
from them? Is it going to go are we going to be able to see this?
I don't think so. Only because remember, Quantum's just a warehouse. They're just a retailer. They don't design any of the tables. They don't have any of that. They're not really into the sciencey thing. They're just a transportation warehouse. So they're not into the science like
Gotcha.
I am here. So they don't know. They wouldn't know what test to perform, what tests are actually important to a fabricator. What tests would they do? So I don't know if they're waiting for me to design the tests. But here's the thing: they won't like any of the tests I design because they're
Right.
not going to make their tables aren't going to look good. If they want to drop, here's the thing: if they want to drop rocks on their table and say, look at the surface finish, I'm okay with that. But there's no way to measure it. What I mean by that, how
Mhm.
do we know the rocks are the same amount of rocks? How do we know it was dropped at the same
Equal.
speed? Equal. How do we measure the damage? It's going to be an objective test. So I would avoid anything objective, and I would like to do tests that actually matter to the customer instead of just let's drop some rocks on it. But I think the flex test, like you saw, is one of my many tests that truly show what a fabricator would do with it. They're going to push, pull, bend with it, and it needs to perform those tasks. So, and I have many more sidewall deflections. I want to show on camera me really trying to break it. Like, what does it actually take to break it? Quantum's good at calling cast iron out for being brittle or broken or wants to break, but I have never seen a cast iron table broken. So that's also
Right.
strange. You can't call somebody out and say, "Hey, I think cast iron's weak," and never show proof. And at the same time, they use cast iron in their fixtures, which is also kind of contradicting. They call it a bad material to use, but then they use it in their own tools, which is kind of head scratcher.
Mhm.
So I was like, what the heck? That's strange. Why would you
I think you
discredit a
guys should each
material
come
you're
up with
using?
like right. I think each of
Yeah.
you should come up with like 3 or 4 tests and also like the grading, the scoring criteria, and then just kind of
Hmm.
like we're gonna do these 3 from Fireball, we're gonna do these 3 from Sigmund, and like here's the scoring criteria, and then have somebody just completely unaffiliated, get some weld nerds or some guys with pocket protectors in there that don't have any vested interest in either one of the companies to go out there and actually do the testing.
Yeah, yeah, I'm all down for it. Like, sign me up. As soon as I know where to go or what to do, the table's out the door. So I don't know if that was what that was all about, but I was hoping they would already have that already planned out before they called me out on that. Like, say, hey, we already have these tests, and just send the table to this location, and these guys are going to take care of it. I'd be like, let's go. So,
Yeah.
but no,
After
that hasn't happened.
your video, they're like, "Oh shit, back to the drawing board."
Well, that brings me back to what I'm trying to get people to participate in. Um, we don't even need to do those tests. In those videos, I have 3D printed models to exact scale of the thickness of the table, how to the exact measurement. So I have Sigmund one. I have every single Sigmund table. You can 3D print right on our website, and then
Mhm.
you can 3D print the Fireball table. And just with a scale version of those, it's going to tell you a lot. And what I'm anticipating is that Sigmund has already printed these and put them in their hands and go, we are going to lose so bad in several areas that we better not perform these tests. And so that comes back down to world's strongest fixture table ever made. At what point what is the strongest fixture? What are we measuring? Are you measuring this way? Are we measuring flex? Are we measuring sidewalls? Like, what is that definition of world's strongest table? I don't. That's why I'm just like, I'm just raising my hands in question. Like, I don't know what it means. Please just tell me, Quantum Sigmund. Just come forward. Just tell us what tests are you doing, please,
What is
so
it?
we can. Yeah, what is it like? What, or just take it down so that there's no target anymore. And I think that's awesome. If they take it down, they have a good product. So there's nothing to shoot for or question anymore. But I don't think they'll do that. And I wish I feel actually sorry for some Sigmund owners because I think they've been kind of bamboozled a little bit by that claim. And I wish I could take every Sigmund owner and say, "Hey, I would like to buy your table back and replace it with a Fireball table if I could." I wish I was in a position to do that because I think there's been a little bit of victimized. They've been Sigmund tables or the owners might have been cheated a little bit. That's just the way I feel that way when I bought mine. So I'm just like, I wish I could fix it for them because I don't like anybody feeling like they didn't get what they ordered. So
Yeah.
that's just
Jason
kind of where
Marburger,
I'm
the
at.
patron saint of fab tables.
Well, I just, like that's what got me started in this business is just tools just weren't up to my satisfaction, and it's very clear that fabricators did not design some of these tools and welders, and I'm like, that's what I stand for, is just let's let fabricators design tools for fabricators and let's get some real equipment out there. So that's just where I'm at. But it's
That's
all in good
that's
fun. And I try to stick to the facts. Let's just stick to the facts. Let's just flex it. It is what it is. If it's floppy, I'm gonna call it floppy. If it's strong, I'm gonna call it
mm.
strong. And that's just how I'm gonna present the information. So
That is one thing I like about the industry today is you have a lot of folks that are kind of in a position to create their own tooling. So like as
mhm.
a welder, somebody young up and coming in the industry, you now have the option to buy tools for welders made by welders. You know, people that
Yep.
have 15, 20 years of experience in the industry. Same thing with fabrication tools. You know, like now you can buy things that, you know, this wasn't built by some, you know, big tool company that just manufactures stuff and they got a team of engineers and it's like, hey, we think this is what the industry needs. It's like, no, now you have all these different companies, whether it's, you know, TIG rigs, welding hoods, fabrication tables, squares, clamps, all this stuff. Wrenches. I mean, there's very specific wrenches out there now. I mean, there's strikers. There's all kinds of stuff made by welders that have been doing the craft. And it's like, hey, you know, here's where my, you know, fill in the blank, white label, whatever. This is where this tool that I relied on every single day. Here's where it would fail. Here's the pain points. So I sat back for the last 10, 15 years and developed something that would work every single time the way I needed it to, and I could rely on it. Yeah, it's a little bit more pricey, but hey, this is exactly what you need. You don't have to buy, you don't have to go through the monotony or the drudgery of going through 10, 15 different companies to find a brand that you actually like that's going to perform. This is the one you need. And
Yep.
we didn't have that when we were growing up. It was like you go to the welding supply store and it's like, here's the stuff that, you know, the big company, the big tool manufacturer said, hey, you know, this is what you need. And here's the
Yep.
problems it's going to solve. And it's like, it kind of solves that problem, but it creates these other ones while I'm using it.
hmm You're absolutely right. Yeah. What was at the welding supply store is what you got to choose from. So
Yep.
that's
And
just the
now,
way
I
it
mean,
goes.
with online, like I use the
Mhm.
what the shop app all the time because like anytime you buy
Mhm.
something online, it's automatically connected to shop. Well, shop actually has its own um app, and it's very dangerous for people that like tools because it's just as bad as TikTok. It's like you go through and you buy, you know, a couple diffusers, you buy some Pyrex lenses from this company, you buy, you know, a hood from Outlaw Leather, and now it starts to learn, oh, you're in the skilled trades. You like these
Yeah.
things. And so like I
Mhm.
open up my shop app and it's full of like outdoor equipment, hunting, fishing, camping, hiking, and all my tool stuff, you know. So like there's like a never ending scrolling. It's like Amazon, but it's worse because it knows what you like, and so that's
Yeah.
kind of what it pushes. But
Yeah.
it's pretty neat. If you're into buying tools, the
Dangerous.
shop app is very dangerous. A good thing, but it can also be very dangerous and get pretty expensive really quick.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's the beef. I guess if there is a beef. But yeah, I'm just trying to answer questions for the audience. Like I got a couple more tables showing up and from the requests from the audience, and we'll just continue testing. But until then, I
I
don't
was
have
going
any
to
more
ask if you got
information on that.
the same thickness table that you were looking for, because I know you were having a hard
It
time
is.
buying
Well,
one.
yeah, I tried calling them several times to try to get one to participate, and they, like you said, you saw that they denied me and did not want to respond. But I do, as of last week, I do have one coming. So I did find one, and it is on its way. So we will be able to test the 22 millimeter table. And like I said, if anybody's watching this or listening, go to the Fireball Tool website, and you can just 3D print the 22 millimeter table out. We can do this. So this is I have the print, tells me what it is, what it costs, how many holes are on it, and just take it in your hands and just play with it. And it reacts just like it's going to on the shop floor. So the answer is already here. You can, if we want to compare side by side, and it's pretty flexy. So it's
Now, does it matter what filament you print it out with? Because I haven't gotten
as,
into
as
3D printing yet, but I understand there's all kinds of different filaments you can use.
as long as it's the same, as long as it's the same, it's going to react pretty similar. So here's the table
Okay.
that you saw me flex and stand on. It moves real easy. Remember, this is all about design. The material is it's all about the ribbing, how it's all put together, how much ribbing is in there, and then the same table from Fireball. The Fireball table is this one, and it barely even moves in your hand because of just the extra ribbing and what's been
So you got
provided.
a
But
lot
this
more up underneath it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but this is a simple way for shopping for a table. You can print them all out and check them out in your hands. Like it just look how many leg places you can put on the Fireball table. Look at all the ribbing. This is the stuff that you can't see at the trade show. That's and then there's the same price point for a Sigmund table. So you can clearly see there's
Oh,
a
wow.
big difference. Yeah. So these are exactly the same price. This is 20 Fireball's 20% bigger, and so I encourage everybody, but if they're into purchasing or getting ready to purchase a table, go print some of these out and test them out for yourself. And I guess this is why I'm trying to be transparent with the customer, right? I want you to know when you get your fixture table, your Fireball table, and go, I know that thing's strong. I know one day I might have to pull on, push on it, and do something that's probably unnatural, and it's going to do what I want it to do. So, and that's
Mhm.
where if you get this one, you're like, ooh, if I have to pull on that one, is that really what I want? So this is just me trying to educate the um the community a little bit and show everybody my tests and include others with it. So, but yeah, putting these
I
out
mean,
is just me trying to be transparent. So, but
a- as welders and fabricators, I'm sure we've all pushed tools way past their intended use or limits. uh,
hmm
I'm guilty of that as well. It's like, okay, it's not budging. Let's put a cheater pipe on it. And it's like, I need that
yep.
tool to hold up to get this job done. It's not designed to do this, but
hmm
I need it to do this right now so I can get the job done. So I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that welders and fabricators have pushed products past their
Yeah.
limitations.
Yep.
And the ones
Yeah.
that
So
survive, that's what we recommend to our buddies.
that's what you do. Yep. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Quantum's mad at me a little bit. They want me to remove some of my videos and all that stuff, and I kind of said, well, maybe you should just take down the ad that you're the strongest, or just show us some tests so we can. What I told them is, I want Build Pro to participate. I want Weld Cell to participate. I want Blue Co to participate. I want Certiflat to participate. I think all of us table designers should be able to participate in your tests
Mhm.
and just show us what tests so that we can all see what you're claiming, and then let's let us fight for it realistically instead of just make the big huge claim. So that's kind of where I'm
Yeah.
kind of upset with them. And I think that's the fairest way to do it. That's the way the iron workers would do it. We have to prove that. We have to prove this stuff. We can't just make the claim
Yeah.
and sit back and but
It's the best. Why? Because I said so.
and that's where my curiosity comes from. And I'm getting, I get some negativity from that too, but I'm just like, I don't mind losing, if that makes sense too. If I lose a test, that's I'm going to learn a lot from that, and I'm going to take that back, and we're going to improve the product, and we're going to make it better. And just like anybody else, if we lose, we're going to go back, practice, make some improvements. And so I think any form of competition is good. The ultimate winner here is going to be the customer. So,
Yeah.
so I look forward to
I do like a
competition.
good build pro table. The
Yeah.
I got one of the Rhino carts, and I absolutely love that thing. And it's actually, so I have Sigmund at the shop because that's what I
Hmm.
kind of inherited when I bought Underground Metalworks. So it was all Sigmund tables. Stephanie got a killer
Yeah.
deal on them. But my Rhino cart at the house, I like that one better than the Sig, and not to knock on Sigmund, they make good products. But
Yeah.
I think the price point comparable, the Build Pro table from what I've seen on the website, because I was actually in the market to buy a bunch of fab tables when we were going to open
Mhm.
WeldWorks Training Center, which is now Underground Metalworks. I was going to buy a bunch of Build Pro tables, but just because I was familiar with the Strong Hand brand. And so I've
Yeah.
got the Rhino cart in my shop at the house. And I want to say that table's like 5/8 thick. And
Yeah.
so it's
It's
a little bit
thick.
thicker, and that the nitride coating that they put on there, it's like it's tougher than hell. Like I still
Hmm.
have my same table from I think I picked that up in shit, it was around 2020, right when I took over Arc Junkies podcast. I got that
Yep.
table, and it's like the coating is still on there, still 100%. And but I maintain mine like you should. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just a solid table. I like the way that it's designed a little bit more. It seems to be a little bit more rigid. And
Hmm.
I mean, I would, it'd be kind of neat to see how Build Pro stacks up in there because they're like I don't
Yep.
want to say cheaper. They're more a price friendly brand when it comes to
Yep.
fab tables for a lot of entry
Yep.
level welders and fabricators.
Well, like I said, 8 years ago when I tested all those tables, the Build Pro was at the top of the list. It was rigid, it's flat, it's the tooling's accessible. So I mean, they have a they've set the bar really high at a really good price. You know what I mean? So I mean, Build Pro is a great product. But yeah, then
Yeah.
they've kind of made the 5/8 tooling popular because that's kind of where everybody wants to drill 5/8 holes in it because you can use the Build Pro tooling. So they've really done a good job of providing the tools for the industry. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
look up to them in a lot of ways that way. So yeah, it's really good. And that little Rhino cart, I mean, I kind of modeled the Dragon Wagon off of it too in some ways. I'm like, oh man, that's a nice little neat kit package. They put it all together. So
Yeah. I do like the Dragon Wagon that you mounted a drill press to. That thing's pretty slick.
yeah. Yeah, so that was just out of curiosity. So that's a pro kit table. So that's a kit table that you can put together. So it's the half-inch thick plate, and then you build the frame and the structure underneath of it. And the idea behind that little table is to keep the price low. Because one of the things I've noticed in a lot of comments is they say, Jason, your tables are too expensive. You're too expensive. I'm like, okay, I understand. So let me find a way to lower the cost and shift some of the labor to you, and that way you're not paying for it, and that's just how you just have to weld it together. And so that table comes in right around 500, $600 by the time it's shipped to your door. So
Really.
and then I'm like, you know what, this little table is pretty, yeah, it's like $600 by the time it's shipped to your door. But it's cool. It's the only table in the industry that you can calibrate. So what's cool? It's designed for schools, trade schools, colleges, hobbyists. Because I know when you weld it together, you're probably not going to weld it perfect. And so if you can't make it perfect, you make it adjustable. So the top has calibration screws to where if you are out a little bit, then you can dial in the top perfectly flat. And that's something that no other table company has. And so that's why this little cheapest table is one of the flattest tables on the market because you can have that
What's
accessibility.
what's the name of that table again?
Pro Kit, Pro Kit table. And so when I had the Pro Kit table, I think it's the best value in the industry right now as far as somebody looking to get into a fixture table, because you can customize it any way you want. And just to kind of help show people how customizable it is I was like, you know what? I hate my drill press. It's always never in the right spot. I'm always moving it around. I'm like, I want to put this thing on wheels. I'm like, I think I can marry those two together. I've never seen that done before. And I wanted the big top because I was thinking about putting a big table, even bigger top on the drill press. I'm like, nah, this drill press is that table that's on there isn't going to support that weight. I'm like, what if I put the drill press on the table? The table's definitely strong enough to do that. So my wheels started turning and I just did it and I'm like, this works pretty slick. This might be a new Fireball product. If I could find a drill press to put on there at a reasonable price. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
You need to link up with the guys over at Viper Chair. I want to say that they had a drill press at one point that they were getting ready to launch. I
Oh,
don't know if
really?
it's still in the realm of it, but they're American made too. They make some really high
Okay.
quality made in America stuff. They just opened up their new facility up there in Wisconsin. That'd be a cool collab to see.
That
But
would be. I'll have to
going
look
back
them
to
up.
that oh yeah, no, they're awesome people too. Um, that Pro Kit table, I might have to pull the trigger on one of those because I was gonna get one of the little tripod tables that you roll around on like jack stands.
Hmm.
Um, but your table, I just pulled it up on your website. It's about the same price that I would pay for that whole tripod assembly, but with more
Yeah.
surface area. Because my problem is, so I've got a fab table up front where I have a vise mounted to, and in the
Hmm.
back of my shop is where my saw is. So like the majority of my work for WeldWorks is cutting and bending all of my all test samples for welder certification. So I have to cut everything up in the back and then walk it up to the front. Not that it's a huge, I'm talking
Yeah.
like 30 feet, not a big distance, but if I could be at the saw, ripping off backing strips and radiusing corners and all that stuff while a piece is cutting versus having to babysit the saw, that would
Yep.
increase my time. So I was actually looking for something with a small, footprint that I can mount the Fireball Vise to, the mini Fireball Vise that you have, because that's what I've got
Yeah.
mounted to my table up front. I would get a spare vise and set it up on that. I could put it on that Pro Kit table and just have everything right there in the back and be able to lock the tires or lock the casters because we
Yep.
do I do side bends on everything. So I can clamp that 3/8 strip in there, and then I take that backing strip off with a crescent wrench and a cheater pipe.
Mm. Hmm.
Cheater pipe has entered the chat again. But
Yeah.
so I need the table to stay stationary and the vise to stay stationary while I shear that backing strip off with the crescent wrench. So I think that might be the ticket.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what it's designed for. I actually like building and fabricating on small tables just because you can reach around it. So I tell everybody, if you have a big table, you kind of almost need a small table to accompany it, because that way you can do small projects like you're doing. You can remotely move it where you want and work off of it. And I mean, the tooling kind of matches, so it's just it's a budget friendly kit. And I think uh, that's the key, is the expectations out of this table are low but deliver high. Does that make sense? Like,
Hmm.
you're
No,
getting a
it certainly
half
does.
inch machined plate, you're getting precision drilled holes, you can calibrate it, and it's like it um, is it a light duty table? Sure. Are you going to be doing a lot of bending or pushing or prying on it? Probably not. But it doesn't warrant the price tag either. So it has
Hmm.
it's how's the word? It's an honest little table at a good price point. I mean, it's designed for what you're doing, schools, educational purposes. So, and it's a fun little project to put together in a couple hours.
Yeah, I could get my guy at the shop that he'd have a blast putting that together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They've been really popular. It's actually one of our best sellers. So,
I could see why. That's
and
that's
then you
pretty
can put
slick.
a
It's kind
little.
of like
Then you put
I was gonna say
yeah,
they
you put
make
a
like
little
the little
chair on it.
tabletop sections. Hmm.
Yeah, put a little chair on it. That way you can sit there and do your bending or whatever you're waiting for. You don't have to just sit there and stand. The chair will always go with it, and that way no one steals your chair. I've run into that several times. Like, where is my chair? I'm like, I'm gonna make a chair that bolts to the table and rolls around with it. So these are all just inspiring things from the workshop that, like you said, sit next to the saw. I mean, just use it as a chair to sit next to the saw. Don't have to worry about somebody taking it.
That's true.
Yeah.
So now because you build like really cool tables, awesome tables, fabrication gear, like all the squares, like all this stuff that you get to build all this cool stuff that we need as fabricators and welders and stuff like that, right? Do you get to play with it outside of testing? Like, do you still
Mhm.
get to fabricate and build? Like, I know when you moved into your new shop, you were fabricating all the stairs and the handrails and like, but now that all that's pretty much done, do you get to play with your toys at your shop, or are you constantly just developing new products, manufacturing and testing, and you don't have time to like go out there and build anything?
I always build something. That's the inspiration for all the tools. My product, my personal building has kind of shifted from the structural iron from the building, but more now towards automotive.
Mhm.
Custom automotive parts. But that is always the inspiration for for Fireball products. If once I stop building, man, the ideas are. I'm not saying they're going to dry up, but a tool has the tool come how to explain it? The tool has to come from necessity. And if I'm just gonna design a tool for no reason, it's not gonna be very good. And I think we've all seen some
Mhm.
tools that are like that, like, what the heck? Who's how did this tool come to life? Just because I can make something doesn't mean I should. It needs to be tested here in the workshop, and I'm the first person that it runs through. And then, of course, I get recommendations from others, and so I'll build it and I'll test it and try it. A good example of that is the miter square, the new miter square that came out. That was a request several years ago at a trade show, is to build a tall-legged speed square, and that's just kind of where it comes from. But yeah, I have to build in the workshop, and I still do currently. So, but yeah, to get it, you have to test them, and sometimes I'll test the tools out, building my own stuff for a year or two or three before it even comes to life. A good example of that is the blacksmith vise. Use the blacksmith vise every day, and then I have to make sure it's right for production. But yeah, if you're not using it and abusing it in your daily workflow, then it will never come to light as a product in my workshop. So
That makes sense. I actually just picked up your miter squares. I was at my local welding supplier, and they're a Fireball Tool distributor now. Robert's
huh?
Oxygen. Shout out to those guys in Orlando. Fantastic company. That's like the only distributor I'll ever work with. Um, and they're just super great people. Customer service is fantastic. But I walked in there and I looked over and I was like, oh man, I was like, those are the miter squares from Fireball. And it was 100% impulse buy. I didn't have any projects coming up. I was like, I know that I deal with enough square tubing and stuff. Like it's going to come in handy. So I picked
Yeah,
up the 3-pack and I was like, yeah, just throw. It was an add on. I was there to
yeah,
get some stuff for one of the classes, and I was like, just throw that on there too.
yep,
I'll
yep.
use it.
They'll use it, and like I said, it has some neat features in there that a normal speed square doesn't have. That you'll utilize, and the price point is just it's if it does sit around in the toolbox for the occasional use, it's like it's okay. You know what I mean? So try to keep
Okay.
the price really low. But yeah, those have been really popular too. They sold out just like immediately. So I'm just like, why hasn't this been invented before? Like this feels like it should be a thing a long time ago. So,
Mm-hmm.
but
Tell
yeah,
me
and
about your blacksmith vice, because I've not seen the blacksmith vice yet. Is that like the old school post vice, or is it like a
that's
different?
the big one that sits on the floor that's red, and it kind of has
Oh,
like the
okay,
clamshell. So that's technically called a blacksmith vise, or we call it
okay.
blacksmith vise, floor vise. You saw it at the trade show this year, didn't you? Or the big line where people were messing around with it.
Yeah, with the
Yeah,
test and see how tight you can get it. You spin the wheel and like try to get it as
yeah.
closest to the pin, essentially.
Yeah, so that was I saw a version, just to rewind for the audience that doesn't know about this, but so that was about 8 years, 6 years ago. Yeah, 6 years ago. I built the prototype, and it was built based off of a photograph that I saw. And generally, these blacksmith vices, they're about 800 pounds, 600 to 800 pounds, and they're about 30 inches tall, and they were pretty popular in Europe, but we never really got them here in the States. And they sell for like 5 to 8 grand. And I'm like, man, I want one of those, but where are you gonna find one? I don't want to spend 8 grand on one for a little one for an old piece of equipment that I don't know how wore out it
Mm-hmm.
is. So I'm like, let me see if I can just make one out of some plate steel. I go, I got a water jet. I got some time. And I needed something for the YouTube channel that showcases some of the Fireball tools. So I was like, let's build one, but let's scale it up, and let me add some more features and designs to the original concept photo. And that's just kind of where it started from. And then about 3 years ago, I've been taking mental notes of all the problems that I've built into the design, or problems with the design of this floor vise. And if anybody's doesn't know what I'm talking about, it works kind of like a pair of pliers, or how your forefinger and thumb come together. Um, so there's some challenges with that, in manufacturing. So took some of those and made the changes, and I've always envisioned it being cast iron from the prototype was steel plate, and then the production version is cast iron. So that allowed me to make some cool cosmetic changes. So we basically that's coming to life. It should be on the market hopefully this August or September. I should have the first 40 or 50 of them for sale. But we debuted the first one at FabTech, and it's been a huge hit. So the most common
I
asked
do
question
remember the
is,
one.
Yeah. Like most common, what does somebody need that for? I go, when you need it, you need it. The industry that needs these, they've been waiting for this, So is it for the everyday person? Nope. Is it for the diesel mechanic, the blacksmith, the hydraulic repair, the millwright? Is it for I mean, if you're in an iron worker shop, sure. If you're in, then these are the type of people who use a big vise like this. So,
Mhm.
and it's just built with the fireball. Let's overbuild it like crazy and let's have something cool and be proud of. And that's kind of the idea behind it.
Yeah, it's freaking stout. I know which one you're talking about now, because when you said blacksmith vise earlier when we were texting, I was like, oh, like a post vise, because I bought a leg vise post. Well, it's referred to as a post vise or a leg vise for blacksmithing, because the rod goes all the way down to the ground. So
Hmm.
ideally, you can actually clamp stuff in it and then hit it topside with a hammer, and it transfers all that energy to the ground. So it doesn't, you don't lose that in your piece. You still
Yep.
transfer that energy through the part, so you can form it and shape it. But like if you do that in a regular, like a Wilton vise or something like that, you're gonna bust the jaw off trying to like hammer and beat on hot metal while you're, hitting on a
Yep.
vise.
Yep. That's what it's for. Yeah, and this has the largest throat that I know of in production. So this has a 30-inch throat, so you can put long pieces down inside of it. It's basically throatless in the sense. So, and it's my favorite tool to use in the workshop because you can access 360 degrees around your part. Where normally a bench vise, you're kind of limited to just two sides. So sometimes you're drilling
Hmm.
holes on one side and you're tapping around. You can just kind of walk around it, and the whole vise weighs 1,800 pounds. So you just
Jeez.
plant it and it doesn't even move. So that's a neat feature of not needing a table to attach a vise to. You just pick it up with a forklift and then just move it where you want and plop it down on the concrete. And I mean, I guess theoretically you could even take it to a job site. I don't know why somebody would want to do that, but I mean, it's possible. So, but yeah, it's a pretty sweet tool, and it's going to be one of our Fireball flagship tools, and it just kind of shows that hey, we're capable of doing this. Or we're making tools that sometimes don't make any sense. For the masses, and I'm really just trying to target an industry that has been kind of forgotten. I felt the last 50 years, the big industrial guys, stuff that need heavy equipment that lasts a long time. People aren't afraid of spending a little extra money to get something that's going to last 100 years. I felt like we've always been trying to shrink it down a little bit. I mean, how do we make it cheaper, lighter? Let's make somebody buy things 3 or 4 times. This product is not for for with that in mind. This is buy once, you keep your parts replaceable on it so that they can be maintained. That's just who I'm trying to cater to for this vice. So
You're probably going to get a lot of government contracts and government bids on those because they've got the
yep,
budgets to do it.
yep. And they're trying to
Does that
keep the
make you
price.
nervous, like as a tool designer and a business owner, to say like, this isn't for everybody; it's for a select few group of people, and try and get it in front of those folks that can actually need it, utilize it, and afford it?
Not really. I know that this isn't going to be our best seller, but I do think it's like anything. I'll go back to the Corvette at the same time analogy where GM knows they can build a sweet car that's fast, and they know they're capable of building that. So everything underneath that product line is probably going to have a lot of those same trickle down features into it and um, design quality. So the same people who are designing a Corvette to do 200 miles per hour are probably a part of some of the more eco-friendly cars. And that's kind of the way I look at this. Hey, Fireball can design this huge, massive vise that appeals to a small niche, and we're going to put all that engineering into our smaller stuff too. That's more affordable. Um, and so that's kind of how I envision the customer seeing it. And of course, they just lust off after it. And I think that's just something cool too, to have something that people just want to lick the jaws right off the thing. So it's a status symbol too. I think there's something to be said with tools, is it shows where you are at in your um, what's a good word for that? Shows where you're at in your cycle of. how do I have you made it type tools? I guess you know what I mean. Like when I
Hmm.
started out, I started off with the low tools, but when you get established, you have much nicer tools and things that are more luxurious. And this is definitely one of those tools that can show a status of where you're at in your career, I suppose. So at the price
It's
point,
yeah,
we're trying to
it's
keep it
definitely a
around
flex.
a flex. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a flex. Like, hey, I have the Fireball Blacksmith Vise, and we mean business in this workshop. And so when somebody goes into your workshop, you're like, yeah, okay, they have one of the biggest vices ever made. We know what we're doing in this facility. So it's a
We
status
found the
symbol
guys
too.
for the next job.
Yep, yep. So, and I do think that there's something to be said about some industries just need these overbuilt tools because they break them all the time, and I think that that's more common than what we actually think too. So, and we're trying
Mhm.
to keep this price point about 7 to 8 thousand bucks. So I don't think that's too far out of the world for a tool that's supposed to be lasting, 100 years or so. I think that's pretty. I think that's pretty reasonable price for an 1,800 pound vise. I mean, that's crazy. So
And it's probably going to maintain its value throughout the years.
yeah, and so I look forward to seeing those get into customers' hands. I want to see how they're using them. I want to see how much abuse they can take. But I do a lot of that testing in my own workshop, so I'm not worried about governments getting it and abusing it and being dissatisfied with it. So I guess that's why I like the transparency of doing my own internal testing, because I think the customer's like, Jason, you should send your stuff out to third party tests, and I'm like, I guarantee that I'm going to test my own product harder than any third party test would. So I have confidence that it's going to survive the real world because I ultimately have to sleep at night knowing that my tools are out there floating around. So
Yeah. And I seen
yeah,
how you tested your previous vices, and it's like, holy shit, if he's willing to do that
yeah,
to his own,
yep,
like that big sledgehammer that you had roll around on that A frame and just whack.
yep,
And to be able to test, to be able to test the impact strength of it and how many cycles it can go through.
uh huh,
It's pretty neat to like how much testing you actually go through because you design it, you build it, you fabricate it, and then you do your testing, which is like
yep,
kind of unheard of. Like you said, a lot of folks outsource their testing, they get the results back, and they're like, and then they pass it off to marketing, and marketing can kind of fudge the numbers and make things look good in a certain area. But like you put it through its paces, and then you take that raw footage and you post it up on YouTube for everybody to
yep,
see. Here's
yep,
the failure points. Here's we're gonna go back in and we're gonna reinforce this area, or here's kind of where it didn't perform up to expectations. So we're gonna do X, Y, and Z. I think I can fix this on the next iteration of the product.
mhm,
And then like once it kind of meets your standards, which are ridiculous, then you put that out to the public.
yep, yep. And we that allows me to see weaknesses in the design. Like I said, you have to build in some weaknesses. Uh, you want if it's going to break, which everything here's how I explain this. Everything has a breaking point. We know that. You put an excavator on the jaw and you clamp onto it and you put another excavator, you could probably break something. But where would you want it to break? I guess that's where the engineering comes from. And it's like, okay, let's have it break in an engineered component that's replaceable. And I think that's the fun of what I look at as an engineer is we want it to be serviceable. We want it to be we want parts that you can purchase and replace if something happened to it. And I think that's where the testing comes in. I'm going to show something. Okay, the swivel base is going to break if we do this. If we do something that we don't shouldn't do to it, but it's okay. We have other swivel bases that you can replace it with. That your tool is not completely destroyed and you have to buy a new one. And so that's kind of where the testing comes from. But and then you get from the feedback, who's ever going to swing a hammer that big at it? Or why are you testing it that way? And here's something I never really say on camera about our tools. This is how I think of it: is if I abuse it today, it's probably going to need to be. It has to live tomorrow, and then tomorrow it's going to get abused, and then it has to go the next day. And it carries that our tools carry the abuse from previous days over. So it carry. You don't need it to be abused one time, but it's got to be abused throughout its course of its lifetime, and it carries that abuse with it. Does that kind of make sense? So if you abuse a vise by hammering on it all day long, well, that damage gets carried over to the next day. and then the next day, then the next day. So we have to build in and engineer like a window of huge margins so that it can take up the that abuse, right? It's like
I mean, it,
it's,
it makes perfect sense because if you look at most other companies that design and build, products for the masses or whatever, they do similar testing. They abuse it and they figure out the
mhm,
failure points and then they capitalize on that and they call it planned obsolescence.
yeah,
So like if you think about something as simple as the light bulb, Thomas Edison's very first light bulb is still lit today in a museum in I think Pennsylvania, right? That light
yeah,
bulb is still going. However, if you go out and buy a regular incandescent light bulb, you might get 6 months out of it. It's
hmm,
planned obsolescence. They want it to fail because if they sell you the perfect item one time, then they don't have any repeat customers. But it's like,
yep,
when my wife and I moved into our house, we had the refrigerator and the utilities that were in there, or the appliances rather, that were in the house were from like mid to late 80s, right? We've since replaced everything, but those items lasted, from like the mid 80s up until, the mid 2000s. I'm
yeah,
on my third refrigerator. Like we replaced the original one that was in the house. I bought 2 cents because of planned obsolescence. Same with the dishwasher, the washer, the dryer. Like you swap out
yep,
appliances every couple of years, and it's not like they're any more affordable. It's not like it's at a cheaper
nope,
price because you're buying them every couple of years. It's the same
hmm,
freaking price. But
yep,
it's called planned obsolescence, and a lot of companies rely on that, saying we know that this thing's going to burn out in 3 years. That's why we're going to
yeah,
offer like a 24-month warranty. And so,
yeah,
like at month 25, when this thing takes a shit, it's out of the warranty zone, and they got to come back. They got to come back and buy a new one.
yep. That doesn't sit
It's
right with
it's
me.
sad.
Yep. And like I said, that's everyone says, Jason, your vices are too expensive. Well, I'm like, well, but you're gonna buy one,
It's the last
you
one you'll
know,
ever need.
it's the last one you ever need. And I'm gonna make sure of that. So that's kind of my argument to them. And some people get it, some people don't. But what are you gonna do? I can't please everybody, but I do know that if somebody gets their vice in gets my vice in their hands, that they're gonna be happy, and I can live with that.
Mhm.
So. And like I said, I have some. I don't know if you saw the last couple of posts the last time. Is one of the biggest comparisons for me in vices is Wilton, of course. And before made my vice, I would think Wilton is a very good vice. Still think it's a very good vice. But what I was struggling with in my marketing is people wanting to compare my hardtail vise to a Wilton, and they're like, Jason, there's no comparison. No matter what testing you do to your Fireball vise, it will never compare to the Wilton. So that's this next series of videos that I'm going to be directly comparing the Fireball vise to the Wilton. But I like to cheat and I want not to cheat. I want to handicap my vise because anything I do to my vise, they're always going to say the Wilton's better, no matter what I do to it. So in this series, I drilled 800 holes in the Fireball vise. I don't know if you saw that Instagram post, but I
I
literally
saw the
drilled
post. I didn't get to listen to it to see what you're
y-
doing.
yeah, so I drilled 800 holes in it for a visual confirmation that I want to handicap my vise because I want there to be at the end of this testing a unanimous decision that the hardtail vise is better than the Wilton. And I'm struggling marketing trying to help people understand, justify the price, right? And so I, it's tough for me. I built a really good product, but to somebody looking in, they just see two vices. Like they don't understand how much better built the Fireball vice is. So I'm just like, what can I do? And it just came to me at night. I just got to drill 800 holes in it, make it look like Swiss cheese. Now these people cannot argue that I didn't handicap my own tool. But I'm
Now,
looking.
did you?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, did you like come up with 800 just on a whim, or is there like a reason that it was 800 holes? And did you in fact drill 800 actual holes in the vise?
Yeah, there's probably 800 and a few holes. I rounded it down to 800. But yeah, we just went to town and tried to keep the spacing about a half of an inch apart. Sometimes we're a little closer, and we just randomly drilled holes in it. So me and Wyatt did it in about half a day or so. Drilled all the holes. So we reduced the weight by like 20 pounds out of it. We took 20 pounds of weight. There's a lot of we drilled in critical areas. We've drilled holes, but I'm currently trying to come up with some tests. So if you have any real world tests, I'm welcome to hear those. Anybody that's listening, send me your special requests on the at the Fireball Tool forum. But everybody wants to see bombs dropped off of a tall building, dropped off of a helicopter. They all want to see these crazy tests, which
Everybody's
I'm
doing
all
that shit.
for, but but I don't know how it's really going to showcase the true performance of the Fireball Vise. So I'm up for some suggestions. Obviously, one's like grip strength. So one of my one of the tests I have in my mind is I want to take a trailer hitch off of the back of a pickup truck and mount the vise to it. So there's just the stinger comes out and we might mount the vise to it. And then the ball I want to hold in the jaws of the fireball vise. And I want to tow a freaking trailer around with the ball being held in the jaws of the vise. Well, I won't take it on the road. I got some property I could take it around, but I think that will visually, that's one test I think will visually show how good the grip strength is, because the trailer, it's jostling around, it's going sideways, it's going back, it's lifting up and down. I, so I'm always trying to come up with clever marketing ways to show you how good this vise is for strength. So if you got any ideas, let me know. I'm all for it. That are visually fun too. So
I would say, you know how like the problem that I run into a lot of times with vices is when you mount them to a table and I need to do like apply torsion to something, twist it,
mhm.
whether I'm tightening something down or loosening things up, the base always seems to kind of to clock or slip.
Yep.
Like crank that thing down and put like again, here comes the cheater pipe. Put like a big cheater pipe in there and just see how much torsion it could take from left to right or right to left. Um, before it either snaps or slips, because that seems
Okay.
to be the biggest problem. Like I've got, if you look at a vise, like you've probably tested hundreds of freaking vices, you see all the little pins on the side of the vise where they tighten everything down to lock
Hmm.
the vise in place so that the base doesn't twist as you're utilizing it. All those little keyways, those little pins or whatever, they're always bent because everybody's trying to crank it down a little bit harder because it's
Yep.
constantly slipping.
Yeah.
I would add that to your testing if that's not
Okay.
already part of it.
I'll definitely add some more of that. That's a great
That's the only
feature.
complaint. That and force, coming down from the top, like we talked about with like a post vise, putting something in
Yep.
there because you're trying to like drive a pin or something out of the top. Like how much is that vise going to be able to withstand downward impact force?
Okay, I'll do that. And the hard part is trying to be scientific to where we can gather a number, right? And I guess that's where the dragging the putting the ball in the jaws isn't, it's objective because we can't gather data from that, so it's like
Hmm.
ah, it's just tough to how do I show the fireball ice is really good. I really believe in my product and I want people to I'm not trying to justify the price. I'm trying to help everybody know why it's valued as it is, so it's like I'm just struggling here. But yeah, it's fun. But I'll take your suggestions and try to make some cool tests out of it. Yeah, like what do you do for twist? So we did one where I put a bar in the vise and I put a hydraulic jack and I could measure the load. I've done that before, but that doesn't really take care of the jerking. Like, when you're on like a pipe wrench and you give those hard jerks. It's those really fast, high, um, high loads that break that swivel base loose, and start rotating it around. So I'm trying to think maybe a hammer swinging on it from the side to get that to come around. That could work. Yeah,
Yeah,
or
I'd
a
say
tug of
that because you've
war.
already got that hammer set up.
Yeah, that could work. Or maybe is it a tug of war? So the Wilton is on one side and the fireball's on the other, and you tug of war it, and obviously one will hold better than the other because they're whatever one moves first. It's like an arm wrestle or something. You come
Yeah,
along them
kind of like
together,
how they
possibly.
you ever seen the test with the Milwaukee and the DeWalt? And they'll
Yeah,
take
the
like a 3/8
drills.
piece of round bar and they'll crank them together and then they put a zip tie in there and then they slam the batteries in there last second, throw them on the floor and see which screw or which drill beats the other one up, which one's still
I,
standing at the end.
I like that. I'm going to take your suggestion. I think we should do the bar
Like a
off the side tug of war to test the swivel base. That's it. I'm going to
There
add
you go.
that
It's
to
like
the
a last
list.
man standing kind of thing.
Yep, yep. I'll do it. I like that one. because then it's fair, right? I mean, no one can say, "Oh, Jason, that one vise has more force on it than the other." They're seeing equal force, so whatever one
Mm.
slips, loser.
Yeah.
The fireball are gonna win.
That's why I like the that's why I like the abrasive test that you did, because I mean, like, you
Mhm.
don't have a dog in that fight because you don't make grinding discs, you don't make abrasives, you make,
No,
fabrication tools, squares, tables, vices, and all that stuff. But you took the time and the money, because you have to buy all this stuff,
yeah,
to test all the different grinding discs and cut off wheels and all that stuff.
yep. So,
But geez,
but
is that your
yeah,
book of
so
data?
this is a book of the data. If anybody know, this is why I just love data. I love the science. This is why I get all nerdy about this. But the request came from the customer saying, "Hey, I want to order some abrasives." So I'm like, "Okay, well, what abrasives should I sell on the Fireball website?" Because I think it's a natural thing. You buy some tools, you want to buy some abrasives with what you're going on, but with what you're building. So I'm like, "Well, which ones do you carry? Right? Do you carry the Fair, the 3M, the the Nortons? Well, which brand do you go with, right?" So I'm like, "Okay, well, maybe I should just do my own testing." Here's me again questioning every manufacturer out there because I take everything for face value. I want to come up with my own conclusions. So that's what started the whole test. So then it started. How do I test these? What is the performance? How do we do it? And then what data do we collect to where we can see something? And so currently, we've tested 65 current flap discs, and we've put it all in this book. Now, the reason why we put it into a book rather than online is because I wanted this to be like a reference guide for somebody. I'm a paper pencil. I like to grab a book and go, "Oh, I'm using the Harbor Freight Bauer." Where does its performance look like? So we put every test in there so you can physically look at it, and then it plots the graph of how it performs in each, how much pressure and how long did it last. Well, the cool thing about this is now you can compare stuff side by side. That's one thing I like about paper is you can kind of just move them together. um, but
Mhm.
and then the answer is, what is the best disc? That's what everybody wants to know. Like, Jason, you've tested them all. What is the best disc? And the simple answer to that is there is no best disc. I know that disappoints a lot of people, but much like we're going back to the Corvette series again, uh, a disc performs better in certain categories. So a good example of that is like the Cubitron 2. If you look at it, it performs really good in how much material removal it can do. Like how much the sheer volume of material it can do. It's like really good at that. But what it does not perform well at is in the price. It's not a budget friendly disc. So it loses in how much material for the price. That makes sense. But there's some cheap discs like the Steel Savage. Steel Savage is the cheapest, best performing disc. So if you're a home hobbyist, I would tell everybody get the Steel Savage discs because they're cheap. They're $2.30. They have a really high material removal rate. They're maybe a little slower, so their speed isn't quite as fast, but they're cheap and they work good. And so, like, if you had a school, I would get Steel Savages and load up on the Steel Savage discs. That way, the kids can just annihilate them, and if they throw them in the trash, big deal. I always wear out the edge of the disc, like the first half of an inch, because I'm trying to get
Yeah.
fillets and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not going to burn up a $8 Cubitron 2 to just grind out to smooth out a fillet. So that's why I suggest people go with the Steel Savage discs. So that's kind
Is
of what
Steel
this is for.
Savage, who's that made by? Is that its own
it's
company? I've
it's
never heard
it's
of them.
just like a no name brand. So I found them and I started importing them from China because I just randomly came across them and I'm like, these discs are really good. So we carry those at the Fireball store now. They have a thin and a thick, and they're cheap and they work good. And I'm like, that's what I want. I want cheap, good performing discs. And then I'll keep the Cubitrons and the Norton Blazes for tasks that I need those for. And
Mhm.
so, like, I'm working on cars. I need the flap disc flap stuff off, like if it has tar or weather sealing on it. I don't want to use a good disc to remove all that junk off there. I just grab the Steel Savage and I clog it all up and I throw it away. And so that's kind of
I
where
got. I'm gonna have
each
to look into
disc,
those.
so each
Because
disc
well,
has
because
its
like
own category.
yeah,
Yeah.
because well at the school, like I've got a bunch of students that have never used a grinder before, so that's like part of day one is like, here's
Hmm.
how you use a grinder, here's how you select the appropriate attachment for what you're doing, because not there's not one grinding disc or wheel that does everything. So like you have
Yep.
to know the difference between this is what a wire wheel does, this is what a cutoff wheel does, this is what a hard rock does, this is what here's all the different use cases. So I lay everything out and kind of give them a little play by play of where you use one disc over the other. But in my toolbox, once everybody goes home for the day, like I've
Hmm.
got like it's slap full of Walter products because I'm the one that's going to use those. They're a
Yep.
little bit more expensive. I don't
Hmm.
have to worry about somebody taking an $8-9 flap disc and like just smoking it trying to take mill scale off.
Yep.
I've got that for like if I'm doing my testing or if I'm doing a fabrication project, like I've got high end abrasives for me to use. But for just general purpose, like you guys use it, have fun with it, learn the basics,
Yep.
fundamentals of a grinder. Here's some bargain bin stuff that if you burn it up, no harm, no foul. I'll throw it away, and I've got more.
Yep.
I'm not like, man, that disc was $8. You can't like
Yep.
be careful with it. I don't have to
Yep.
worry about all that.
So I suggest the Steel Savage to anybody in a school workshop like you're doing or home hobbyist. But then this is what the performance disc guide does for you is that you could show this to your student. So if we go to like the Steel Savage, if I find it, or I'll just pull up anyone here. Um, but what you'll see is where it performs the best. What I mean is you can use the disc incorrectly. And so if you're using it too light of pressure, like you're not putting enough pressure on it, you're going to glaze it and you're not going to get very good
Mm,
performance out of it. But this what the graphs tell you in this book is how should you use it? And in this case, you want to push. You want to push fairly hard and that's going to give you the better performance. And like the red and the blue says, okay, can you use it on hot material? How does it perform on hot material? Because we've all done it. We've welded something and it's still glowing cherry red, and the grinding disc or the flap disc is right there. And can you hog it off? Is that going to wreck the disc by grinding a hot weld? So that's what kind of where something like this in your workshop would be great, showing your kids. Uh, and showing the data to your kids like, hey, you can use a disc incorrectly too. It's not just a one, um, just use it. Here's how you use it. You need to keep pressure on it, keep it from glazing. So that's kind of what the
yeah,
performance disc. Other neat things is that I don't know if it just do a little spoilers, but have you seen the Cubitron 3 yet? Have you heard anything about
I
the
yes,
3M Cubitron 3?
I've seen that they kind of compare that one to the Victorinox, right?
Yeah. So I just got done testing that one last week. I'll give you a little heads up. That disc is the most impressive disc I've ever seen in my entire life out of all of this. That Cubitron, so they claim up to 50% better performance over a Cubitron 2. Now, the Cubitron 2 performs really well in our testing and it lives up to the expectations. So if you're looking for a high-end disc that you're looking for, the Cubitron 3. Now, as if anybody's listening, I want to continue to do these tests for everybody and continue testing and comparing it to the data that we got. So I'm going to do a shameless plug. But if you have an opportunity to buy abrasives, please try to buy it from Fireball because this what helps fund this information and this data.
This
So
experiment.
if it's this experiment, yeah, because we this is weeks of my life to put into this book to sell for $20, right? So if you can buy abrasives from Fireball, I appreciate it. We try to do something a little bit different, as we try to take a 10 pack and reduce it down to a 5 pack. That keeps the cost low. So because you get a Cubitron 3 pack, that's almost $100, right? So
Damn.
that's a lot of money for somebody. That's a lot of money for somebody to buy 10 discs. So what we do is we'll
Yeah.
split it and break it down to 5, so it's a little bit more manageable price point. And then that way you can try it out first, see if you like it. But yeah, the Cubitron 3 is a very impressive disc. So stay tuned. I'll have a video on that coming out here, hopefully the next couple weeks of showing its true performance, and it's very impressive. So, but so that's what I tell everybody. If you want a cheap disc, get the Steel Savage. If you currently right now, if you want an expensive disc that performs well, the Cubitron 3 is on top. So it's really good. Almost so good.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. This segment of the Art Junkies podcast is brought to you by Everlast Welders. If you're in the market for a new machine, TIG, MIG, multi-process, or plasma, Everlast is doing something nobody else in the industry is doing. Pro-level features at a price that doesn't make your wallet cry. AC pulse, adjustable balance, full digital control, real foot pedal response, and every machine is backed by a 5-year warranty. Whether you're a weekend warrior building a project car or a fab shop pumping out work every single day, there's an Everlast machine built just for you. Head on over to everlastgenerators.com and check out the full lineup. And be sure to type in ARC Junkies in the comment section at checkout to get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG torch upgrade when you buy any machine that comes with a stock foot pedal. Everlast Welders. Weld mean, weld green. Now let's get back to the show. And like how you use them, it really, really matters. I mean, like I don't want to buy something just so I can abuse it. But I think a lot of welders, fabricators, in one of my instructors today, we were having this conversation. A lot of people, they don't understand grinding and finishing and polishing. Like it's an art within itself. And you get a lot of folks that, they throw a grinding wheel on there. They think all wheels are created equal and all grinders are created equal. And you got to put as much force as you can on a part to, remove as much material as you can in the shortest amount of time. And that's completely contrary to popular belief. I watched that firsthand. Kevin Johnson with the Welding Business Owners podcast, right?
Yeah. Yep.
He does the Fabricator Olympics every year. Well, this year or last year, one of the competitions was how much stock can you remove from a piece of material, right? And you get 6 minutes to do this. And I was like, I want to judge that because like I'm tired of judging welds. I've been judging welds at competitions forever. Like, let me judge something different. So I was like, throw me on abrasives, Kev. And so he put me over there. So these folks have 6 minutes, and I grab a piece of it's like 4-inch wide, I think 10-inch long, 1/2-inch thick piece of A36 steel. And I had a little a scale there, and we would measure that bar down to the gram before we start. Say, okay, yours is X amount of grams. Okay, go ahead, chalk it up, put it, get it fixed up, mount your wheel, on your mark, get set, go. And they would start, just hogging off on this material. And they had a 40 grit Walter disc, and it's one of the ones with the orange plastic backer. And so guys are just going like ham on this thing, like putting all their weight into it, just as hard as they could. And the folks that pushed the hardest removed the least amount of material. And like I foresaw this. I was like, as soon as they got in there and I seen them how much weight they were putting on it, I was like, you're just gonna smoke the adhesive that's on that grinding wheel. And sure enough, man, I mean, like some of the guys were pushing so hard that within like 2 to 3 minutes, they were shooting the orange plastic from the backing disc over top of the curtains. Oh yeah, it was bad because you got 6 minutes to remove the, as much stock as you can. And if you've always been trained, like the more pressure I can apply, the more stock I'm going to remove. Like those folks did not do well. The ones that actually went in there and took their time and like they did like a pull stroke, nice even strokes, they removed the most amount of material. So when they got done, what we would do is I'd take the piece of material out, and at 6 minutes I had like a kill switch on their grinder. So at 6 minutes, like as soon as that stopwatch hit 6 minutes, I hit the stop button. That way they couldn't get hey, go ahead, time's up, and they, get a couple 4 or 5 extra seconds. I was able to hit the kill switch when time was up. And so I'd take that plate, I'd quench it, and then I'd throw it right back on that same scale, and we'd zero it out each time to make sure it's fair, and then, measure how much stock was actually removed. And the folks that, they just went in there, calm, cool, and collective, and just ran a wheel the way that it's supposed to be ran. They removed more stock than the folks that were pushing, like putting their weight into it. I mean, like you could see the tables buckling, and it was, I was like, man, there's like, that's not how you run a wheel, man.
I like your test. I think you can add your story to a scale. So maybe your beginning fabricators. Do you have a little like a little weight scale, like something that's cheap Amazon that you can measure it out? What we
I
found
could get one.
is like 8 pounds of pressure is about the maximum amount of weight that the grinder 8. So when you
Hmm.
when you're telling me your story of the guys like, I mean, we're heavy. It's pretty easy to put 50 pounds on something by leaning your weight on it,
Oh yeah.
right? That's a so what you're describing is they're probably in that sweet spot of that 8 to 10 pounds, and where the guys are doing lighter. But this is the heavy light pressure. But put a scale underneath them and show them what 8 pounds feels like as they grind. So put a piece of metal on there and then show and say, here, watch the scale as you grind. If it exceeds 8 pounds, you're putting too much pressure on it. It can go a little bit less, and don't let it go below 4, but try to stay between 4 and 8. And that's what this is going to show you, how the disc is performing at those pressures. But I think it's really strange to watch the scale as you grind. You're like, holy smokes, I am pushing way too hard, or I'm not pushing enough. And it's a great visual on how to grind. So yeah, I think that should be a great experiment for your new grinders, I'd say.
I want
Let's
to I
try
want to
that
see how you
out.
set that. You just put the material right on top of the scale.
Yeah. So in our test, we have a weight. So we have like a bar that sticks up, and the grinder and we put a weight on the top, and it feeds into the grinder. But what you can do is you
Hmm.
can just, if this is your material you're grinding, just put it on top of a scale, and so then you can grind on something so that they can see the weight. Like if this is the scale, put a part on here that they can grind. I'm trying to think how you can fasten it down. What did I put a
That's what I
big
was trying to
heavy
think of how
bar
to
on
fasten
there,
it.
like a big heavy
Okay.
bar or something, and have them grind. Maybe tack weld a bar to something really heavy, something that doesn't want to move, and just have them grind on it, and just feel what 8 pounds is like. And I think it's going to really open their eyes and go, now remember that. Like, you don't need excessive force. Your abrasives are going to last longer. The grinder's going to live longer because you're not overloading the gears. So, and just, I think there needs to be some awareness of that. But I've never seen anybody use that as a demonstration of how much weight. And I think that's where this book is
Yeah.
amazing. I think you should have this book in your workshop. I'll have to send one to you.
Don't threaten me with a good time. You said it's on your website.
It is. Yep. It's $20. And it goes into my
What's it called?
this is the ultimate grinding disc. What do we title it? And I'm going to continue to keep updating this as we do more. So it's the Fireball's grinding ultimate grinding performance guide. Um, but we've tested all the major brands and even some you've never even heard of before on here. Um, and I guess the idea behind it is I'm collecting data and I'm willing to share it with everybody, but I need some funding to keep going. Like it takes a lot of manpower to run these tests. I have uh, 6 editors, and I pull 3 or 4 of them off to edit the video because we film it too, so we have data, and then we produce a YouTube video on it so that you can go to the YouTube page and type in your favorite grinding disc, and then you can actually see the disc perform on it with a video also. So we put a lot of effort into this. We try to be transparent, but I want to continue to provide abrasives on our website, good abrasives for sale at a good price, and I want to continue testing. And this is a great way to help the Fireball continue to grow. And get true data and help the industry. So, I mean, that's why I ask everybody: Would you rather buy from an online store that you've never met before, or would you rather buy from Fireball, who's actively trying to help, the welder fabricator with true information about what they're selling? So, and that's where I want to feel
No, I think
confident
I
selling
just
a
added it
good
to my cart.
product. You found it, okay? But
I found
yeah,
Yeah, no,
it's
I
it's
found it. It's easy to navigate on your website.
Oh, good. Or we really try that. And then at the back, if you're looking for something specific, um, we have a whole bunch of comprehensive analysis, which means is what are you wanting in a grinding disc or flat disc? Um, like a good one is cost. Let me get in here so you kind of know what you're going to get. We have fiber discs in here too. If you like fiber discs, I like fiber discs. Um,
Hmm.
Okay, so here's a good example. Flap disk analysis. And this chart right here is going to tell you the cost of the material removal rate, which means is how much did that material that you just flung off in sparks, how much did that cost you to remove that little bit
Okay.
of metal? And then we have a little chart here that tells you, and then we have all the lists, and it tells you this little diagram of how you should read this chart and what discs perform well, and see where your disc that you're using stacks up. Because you might be using a disc that's way out of the chart and go, wow, I can do better. Let me switch over to this disc and get better performance. So you can see what you're using and see if there's something better. And then so we have a whole bunch of those, like speed of material. What disk is really fast? And it gives you a little chart. And then another one that's, I know you're trying to geek out about this, but cost of total removal. And it shows you the disks and how they all stack up to each other. But we've collected so much data. This took us months to do. I even hired two more editors just to help me with this project. And I don't feel like this is being talked about in our industry enough, because this is this is huge. This is incredible. No one's ever done this before. So, but it's fun to get to
You're
share
gonna
with
have
you,
to sell
because
a
you
shitload of those books just to offset the cost of the editors.
it is. Oh yeah, I'm in the hole. This is a give back charity. Because two things. I want our customers to know that I'm serious about the products we sell. I stand behind them, and that I'm. This is a give back project to my trade, if you know what I mean by that. So, and I want people to trust
Yeah.
me when I do bring out my own products, and I do my own testing in house. Even though people say, Jason, you're not testing, you're biased because you're doing your own testing on your own tools. Well, this is just confirmation that I just love data, no matter if it's my own tool or not. And I just want to build that trust with my audience. So that's what we do around here. We're crazy. So, but yeah,
Like I've seen all the tests that you do, like, the stuff you do on Instagram, the stuff that you do on like the YouTube, and it's like I would have never even thought to put a lot of this stuff through the testing that you put through, and like all the gears and gadgets. Like, I mean, that stuff makes sense for what I do with like testing
mhm,
welds. Like I have to have these specific instruments to do this testing, and it's all got to be calibrated and stuff like that. But aside from that, like I only know that those tools exist because of mentors that are like, hey, here's, this is what you need for this is what you need for that. And it's, but the stuff that you're doing, I didn't even know that they made measuring tools for half the shit that you're doing there in the shop.
right.
And it's cool to watch the testing and see the data.
Yeah. Yep. The data is what we're after, and that's how we do it. That's how the customer makes a good decision. That's how we continue to make better tools. We have to have the data. So that's what we're after. And it's weird how my occupation has changed from welding and building to trying just to make a better mousetrap. I know it's just kind of strange, and use my past knowledge of welding and fabrication to be able to make a better mousetrap. I love my job. I love that my customers have support me and volunteer me in a sense to keep going by supporting my tools and my projects. So I can't think of a better place for me to be. I love meeting everybody at the trade shows and FabTech. I love hearing everybody's uh, feedback. And but yeah, this is just my give back to everybody, and I hope everybody loves it as much as I do. I hate the doing the testing, but I love the data that I'm getting at the end. So especially like with the 3M that just came out. When I see the data, I'm like, oh my gosh! Without the rest of this book, that data would be meaningless, because we wouldn't really know. Is that, I mean, 3M claims 50% better. Is that just a regular claim? How do we know that that's true? I mean, even 3M doesn't publish their testing. Like, they don't show us their test, where that came
Mhm.
from. They just give you a number and say, take us for our word, that's 50% better. But yeah, with the test that I got back, I'm like, yeah, it's 50% better. Like, I can confirm it, which is really cool. So,
I
but
could
yeah,
I
it's
could see
awesome.
how you get wrapped up in that stuff, because like we did when I was working with Todd with doing stuff with weld.com, and we were doing side by side comparisons with different deposition rates and stuff like that. And again, like
Yeah.
you cut out a piece of material, you weigh it, you perform the weld, and you do that across. We did one like checking deposition rates for the amount of time that something was welding. So we did it for like stick, MIG, TIG, flux core, and we tried to automate as best as we could. And so like everything started off with the same weight essentially, so we'd cut the material, tack it together, we'd weigh it, before and after the weld, and then measure the amount of time. And like the data that we were getting back was really cool to see, like the actual how much metal you're putting down in a given time. And like
Hmm.
using the buggo systems and all that to track, flux core versus gas shielded, short circuit versus pulse versus spray, like all these different modes of metal transfer, and just collecting the data and actually physically seeing, because you can grab a consumables book and they'll tell you, oh, this is how much weld metal you're going to put down per hour. And it's like,
Hmm.
okay, that's cool. Like, show me your data. Well, no, here's the results.
Yep.
Well, how did you get there? So, I mean, it was really cool to go through and do a lot of the testing. So I could see how you would like geek out on a lot of that stuff. And the testing's got to be, it's got to be fun.
It is. Yeah, especially if you don't know the results at the end. I've gotten to a point now where I'm going to use a flap disc. I can look at a flap disc and say, okay, how many flaps does it have? How thick is it? What's the media? And I can probably give you a ballpark of how it's going to do. But at the end, you don't really know. You guys got to test it, and it's kind of like opening a Christmas present up, because once we collect all the data with the cameras, my guys will take it into edit, and then they'll measure it on camera how much it's been how much the bar has been consumed. And it's like opening a Christmas present, like, oh, how'd it do? And then Conrad will plot all the charts to see it's tapered, how the graph is turning out, and then like, oh, put it in the spreadsheet, let's see how it compares. And it's like one gift after another to see where, oh, that disc was $1. I want to see how the dollar disc, like, where does it stack up? Like, how many dollar discs does it take to equal one 3M Cubitron 3? You know what I mean? And you'd have to have a bucket full of them just to the math is there. And it's like, is a dollar disc worth it? And the simple answer is, not really. I mean, but the data is just, so rewarding to do all that hard work and see something come out of it, and then get to share it with everybody. I think that's what I'm most excited for. Yeah, but it's cool.
Now,
And then help
did you have,
somebody.
oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say, and just
I was
to
going to,
have some, and see that data help somebody if they like switch discs. That's the thing I never really hear about it. Like, oh, did I convert somebody from a Walter to a 3M, or a cheap disc to an expensive disc? I never really get to hear anybody's feedback on that stuff, but I gotta believe it's helped somebody. I hope so.
yeah. Now, did you have like a fan favorite when you started doing this and be like, oh, this one's going to perform really well? And if you did it overperform, underperform, or meet your expectations?
Oh, okay. Well, for the longest time, I was using the Fared discs, and thought that, because that's what was at the welding supply house. Like, that's what all they carried was the Fared stuff. And so I go in and I
Mhm.
load up on, $100 of their good stuff, and I would use that. I'm like, oh, this has got to be the best stuff ever. It's made in Germany, right? I mean, this is so good. And I was very disappointed in where it landed, and that those discs, I've spent 20 years buying the same discs at my supply store, only to find out it was mid-level. And I'm like, wow, I
Wow.
wasted all that time and all that money when a Steel Savage disc that's $2.50 can perform just as well as a $6 disc. I'm like, okay, so I could have saved myself money. It wasn't any faster removal rate, but then, like, okay, maybe go to a
Mhm.
little better disc like a Cubitron 2, spend one more dollar, and you have double the speed. I'm like, well, where was all that time spent? So it's just like, oh, but you're only taking the people's opinions and forum posts, and I think that's what's driving me nuts about the internet right now is we're all really loose with our opinions, and I think that's
Oh
okay.
yeah,
Right? I use this,
to an extent.
I use this disc and it's worked well for me. I use that disc, or I use this table, or I use this product and it works really well for me. But and then we take their recommendation and go, well, is this really good? But so that's where I'm really trying to hope change the industry with data, which means is if quantum, we'll go back to quantum. If quantum wants to claim that they have the best table, can you just show us the data? If 3M Cubitron says they have the world's best disc by 40%, can you just show us the data? Can you show us the test? And if we claim to have something that works really well, can you prove it? And so that's where I think the internet has actually caused more muddy waters than anything, because it's just so easy to put it out there. So,
It's
and
all an opinion, and it's never really hard data. It's like, this is what I use at work, so it's the best. And it's like, no,
yeah,
that's what your employer's buying you, and you've developed brand loyalty because one time they bought something that was, subpar, and you were like, oh no, the other ones we use, they're far more superior.
yep. Well, and then even if they say, well, okay, well, about these two discs, well, we switched from this disc to this disc, and it made an improvement. But what I also say is, or this, so this disc is now the best. I'm like, well, have you tested the other 60 to make that claim that it's the best? And that's kind of where I'm just like, I'm just tired of the opinion stuff. I just want real data in this world. And with AI, providing the data, AI will now be able to pull the data and and then deliver it to people, uh, that's not opinion based. Because I think that's where the industry is going, is with AI. So if you type in what is the best grinding disc, um, then AI might be able to grab some of my information and serve it to people without an opinion. So that's kind of
Did you
where I'm
publish
heading.
that to AI?
No, but if it will read a transcript, so the YouTube videos. I'm still
Okay.
trying to decide what to do with this information, if I should publish this or not. But that's kind of where I'm heading, is trying to get all my data out there for AI to be able to make educated decisions. So
That's the thing
that's
with,
kind
you
of where
got
we're
to be
at.
careful with AI because it'll go into what's called hallucinations, and it'll just
Mm,
give you information because it thinks that that's what you're looking for. And
yeah.
um it's weird. Like, I've been using AI quite a bit for a lot of different things for my business and stuff like that. And it's like, AI, I kind of equate it to the kid back in high school that just wanted to fit in with everybody. And
Hmm.
so it wanted to please everybody and like tell them exactly what they needed to know. And if you're not careful, that's exactly what AI will do. If it doesn't know, it's going to come up with something that it thinks you want to hear. It
Hmm.
won't tell you the hard facts unless you tell it, hey, I want you to give me like a no bullshit explanation, tell me the truth, and cite it with facts. It's just going to tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And so you got to be very careful with AI because they call it a hallucination. And it just comes up with, if
Ah.
it can't find it, it's going to come up with shit on its own, and it's going to spit it out to you. So I've got a friend that's, she's actually writing a historical book, and she's using AI kind of like as a search engine to find things that, like, because AI will scrape the entire internet, whereas
Hmm.
Google's only going to cite sources off of Google, DuckDuckGo, same thing. They're all going to pull from different sources. AI is going to scrape all the different web browsers, and information to come up with stuff. So there's been certain times she's like, well, she'll ask it a question and it'll spit out some information. So she's like, that's, according to my research, that's not 100% true. So she got to the point where she's like, hey,
Mm.
um, like, here's my question. And then she'll spit it out and she'll like, I want you to give me a one word answer, fact or fiction.
Hmm.
And that's it. Like, don't elaborate, don't tell me anything else, just fact or fiction. When you populate your answer, tell me whether it's fact or fiction. And it'll tell you when you kind of put it in the corner, it'll tell you whether it's lying to you or not. So you got to
Oh,
be very
wow.
careful with AI, and like, always ask it to cite its sources and then verify. So even
Huh?
after it spits out the information, you're like, oh, that's exactly what I was looking for, I'm right. Because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, everybody just wants to be right. Go and vet that source. Say, where did you come up
Okay.
with this? And then go check out where it pulled that information from. Half the time, those websites that it's referring to don't exist. The bad
Wow.
gateway, 404 error, whatever. Yeah, be careful with AI.
Sheesh.
It's getting there. It's not 100% where it needs to be right now. It's
Yeah.
slowly getting there, and it's getting better every day. But always cite your sources.
It's good advice. Absolutely. It's the future, but we're not quite there yet. But yeah, it's like it's a super powerful tool if it can be reliable. We got to get it there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
getting better every day.
yeah. But I would say it's positives outweigh its negatives currently, for a lot of things.
Yeah,
So I'm happy with that. At least the scale is shifted to where it's like, okay, it's more useful than it hurts. But
yeah.
yeah, it's good stuff.
Now, when you did all these grinding wheels, did you run them all at the same RPMs? And then, like, because that would be, I know certain abrasives, certain wheels, they're going to perform better at lower RPMs. And here stateside, like, a variable speed grinder it's not normal to find on the job site, right? You're looking at 2 to 3 times the cost of a normal 4.5-inch grinder, 5-inch grinder, whatever. Europe, variable speed grinders are commonplace. It's like going to the
Mhm.
store and buying a DeWalt 4.5-inch grinder, right? They're all over the place. But here stateside, it's always you get 9,000 RPMs or you get 13,000 RPMs, whether you're getting a 4.5 or 5-inch, or you start stepping up, obviously lower RPMs. But did you test these wheels at different RPMs? Like
Yep.
obviously same, like apples to apples, say, okay, we're gonna test this Cubitron with this Victorinox, and we're gonna, instead of running at 9,000 max capacity, let's like step it down to 6K. Did you test them at different RPMs, or was it like wide open the whole time on pretty much what's standard?
Yep. So to answer your questions, so all the tests have been run on the same two grinders. So I have two grinders and we run four tests. So every test stays on the same grinder. So example is 4 pounds. We test them at different weights. 4 pounds hot, 4 pounds cold. And that what I mean by hot is that I heat the last 3 or 4 inches of the test coupon red hot to simulate welding on a or grinding on a hot weld. That one grinder always sees that one test. So, and vice versa. So, same grinders, same spot, same weight. And yes, we have tested different speeds. So, max speed, and then we bump it down to 6,000 RPMs, and that's in the book. Now, the myth
Okay.
is you're going to love this part. The myth is that if you slow the grinder speed down, that the abrasive discs last longer. And that myth is correct, that the disc does last longer. But
That was gonna
here's
be
the
my
thing.
assumption.
But I want you to remember this though. When you look at the data, what actually happens is like, do you want to drive to the grocery store by turning the RPMs down? This is what everybody thinks the analogy is. My grinding discs have lasted longer, and they are right. But it's like driving to the grocery store at 15 miles per hour or 30 miles per hour. You're going to get to the same destination, the grocery store. One's just going to take you longer to get there. Does that make sense? Time. So by turning the grinder down, all you're doing is just stretching the time out. The disc still has the same amount of material that it's going to remove built into it. Just how much time does it take it to remove the material? So the material removal rate gets lower as you turn the grinder speed down. So
That
if
makes
the does
perfect
that make
sense.
sense? So everyone's like, my
It
grinder
does,
just
and then
lasts
from
long.
like, because when I had Nate Bowman on here, we were talking about grinders and how cheap employers are, and it's like, damn it, just buy the guy 2 or 3 grinders so he can have different abrasives, so he's not swapping the abrasives back and forth between hard rock, flap wheel, cutoff wheel, and wire wheel. Just buy him a couple more grinders for $100 a piece, and he's going to be
Yep.
way more productive. So, okay, if we crank it down from 9,000 to 6,000, just for example, we're going to
Mhm.
get twice the length out of this $6 wheel. However, it's going to take you 15 minutes longer as an employee. So every fourth part that you grind, that's an additional hour that I'm paying you, because you're actually removing less stock over the course of that
Well,
hour time frame.
yeah, and so let's just say the life is
You're
you're
paying
gonna
more at the end of the day.
yeah. So let's just say that it'll grind 60 inches of a bar. That's the light. That's how much material before that abrasive wears out. 60 inches. So I'm just gonna use that as an example. And it took 20 minutes to grind that at full speed. All the By turning the grinder speed down from my data, what I've seen here, is that so that 1 hour, it's by turning it to 6,000 is now going to take you 2 hours, but the disc is still going to be done at that same 60 inches of material. You're not going to get any more material
Jeez.
out of it. So all you're doing is wasting time by turning the grinder speed down. Where the problem with this is, so that's and it's supported by the data. We have all this data in here to support that. So this is not an opinion. I don't care what anybody who's listening to me has their different opinion. Look at the data, and this is the conclusion. There's only maybe one or two discs that actually performs maybe marginally better by turning the grinder speed down. So all you're doing is
Huh.
just driving slower. But what it might help though is more control. So if you have a very aggressive disc, that you might want to go slower, Does that make sense? You might want to slow the speed down so you're not going to gouge into your base material. But because remember,
Yeah.
these discs perform at a certain pressure. They want 6 to 8 pounds of pressure average to perform at their best. So if you want to remove less material, what's your natural thing to do? You lift up and you reduce the pressure. That's how you slowed the feed rate down. But what happens there is
Mhm.
now you glaze. You'll glaze the disc because it doesn't have enough pressure. So having the variable speed grinder, you can turn it down, slow your material cut rate, but still keep the right amount of pressure so you don't glaze it. And that's where the variable speed
Gotcha.
and slowing the grinder down is the beneficial. You won't glaze the disc, but slow your material removal rate down. So if you're trying to say
Now,
last longer, no. Take longer, yes.
okay. Now, with your testing, did you only measure stock removal, or like, because one of the big things, like as a welder, inspector, all that stuff, I'm like a huge like remove your mill scale type of guy, right?
Mhm.
Did you test any wheels to see how effective they are at removing mill scale?
We have not tested the mill scale test. The bars that we are using do have mill scale on them, but they're not. It's not the same as
Right.
cutting a flat mill scale. That is
Hmm.
one test that I think these flap discs should be tested with. But I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Test the mill scale.
Yeah.
I know the glazing part of a flap disc is notorious. You grind on mill scale, it's just so hard. It just glazes that disc up, and it doesn't want to cut anymore. Uh,
Yep.
there's some discs that do better than that. The Cubitrons do well. The Some of the fiber discs do really well in the glazing test. But you'll generally a disc that performs well cutting a lot of material is going to probably do really good on the mill scale removal also. Um, but then have you seen my deglazing video or how to deglaze
I,
a disc? That's
I'm leading into that question.
okay. I'll let you ask it. But no, I have to answer your
Well,
question.
no.
No, I have not tested the mill scale test on these ones yet either.
Okay. Look into that, because again, that's a big thing to me, is taking mill scale off before you weld everything out.
Hmm.
Just because it's harder to get that puddle to flow. You can, tends for lack of fusion in certain instances. Like, get rid of the mill scale before you weld on it. Prior to me discovering, Walter actually makes, and this is not a plug for Walter, they're not a sponsor or anything, but I do have some of their mill scale discs. It's
Hmm.
specifically called mill scale, and it kind of looks like their flex cut, but it's got like these little pimples on the end of it, so it's got less surface area on the grinding wheel, and it removes mill scale better than anything I've ever seen. What I would use prior to that was you can get them at Home Depot, and I don't even know who makes it. It's just like a cheap concrete disc, but it has that same pimple type pattern or whatever, and they work excellent. I mean, they're supposed to be made for, like, grinding concrete, but they work really good for mill scale. So that's kind of why I asked that question. If you tested anything that would take mill scale off, because um, I think that's an important thing to have in your arsenal, is something that's gonna, because everybody wants to use a $7 or $8 flap disc, and then they
Hmm.
smoke it, they glaze it really quick, just taking the mill scale off, just simple shit. And it's like,
Yep.
no, 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 like, use the right disc for that. Like, I typically run a hard rock of, whatever I have, in my toolbox, and then I'll clean it up everything with a flap wheel, just to kind of buff it, get it nice and shiny before I weld on it. But yeah, I was wondering for mill scale. And then if you do that test, what's the best way to deglaze that wheel? Because I think Benchmark put a video out a while back, and they're like, oh, well, you freeze it and then you use it, or you grind on like a really sharp corner on a piece of material. That was another one. Another one was you heat it up. So you actually heat it up, and I think that'd be kind of counterintuitive, because you want to keep the heat out of your wheels. And then I think the best one that performed was like, oh, you just run it in reverse.
Hmm.
Well, how do you run a freaking grinding wheel at 9,000 RPMs in reverse? Like, I don't have a reverse switch on my grinder, and my Milwaukee, cordless drill is not going to run 9,000 RPMs in reverse. So
Yeah.
how did you guys do that?
Um. We've tested. Like I said, uh, we've tested the mill scale in a video. Probably it's been about 2 or 3 years now, and I agree with you. The Walter mill scale won that category hands down. I tested
Okay.
against like the diamond wire the flap disc. Uh, I would say that there is some human subjectivity to it because I didn't have a machine, so I'm using it all by feel. But the Walter
Mhm.
does perform very well, and we sell those out of that test. I was like, okay, I want to sell this at the Fireball website too, so we brought those Walter discs in. But another thing that I tried out for mill scale this year was at FabTech because I always find cool stuff at FabTech. I'm going to go back to 3M again.
Yeah.
They just I've used the stripper discs for like paint stripper. I don't know if you've tried that before.
Okay.
They look like a weird, nasty little woven um fabricy, aggressive
Kind of
fabric
like a
paint
Scotch
stripper.
Brite that just didn't
Yeah.
congeal properly.
Yeah, and it's like
An
that. But
aerated Scotch Brite pad.
so I've used those, and I buy the cheap ones off Amazon. I find those work pretty good. They don't quite last as long as I would expect them to, but they don't really gouge the base material as much as
Mhm.
like the Walter does. The Walter's really aggressive. Like it just gets rid of that mill scale, and sometimes almost a little too deep down into the base material. Where the strip disc is a little more gentle. But 3M just came out with their strip disc, and I got to try that out this year at FabTech, and it works really good. I think it's a good balance between longevity of that strip disc with some of the speed of the Walter. So you might want to look into that. The new
Okay.
3M strip disc. If you're not looking, if you got something like maybe gates or railings where you can't really have any deep gouges that shows up on powder coat or something like that, might want to look into that. But I want to do some more testing on mill scale because there's new products coming out all the time. And then the glazing of the disc. Yeah, you saw that I tried the test. We're running all those tests backwards. The viral myths of the freezing, the people suggested all their suggestions running on a sharp corner, and yes, running the disc backwards does remove the flap. And it's not really the media that gets glazed. What I've noticed is it's the flap covering itself up. You got to remove that piece of
Mm.
fabric. And running it backwards, what we found is it's scary. But I don't recommend this to anybody. But you got to flip the disc over. Do this while the
Oh
boss
shit.
isn't looking, and you flip the disc over upside down. And then you just bump the trigger. But you got to keep enough speed in it to where it doesn't catch the thing. But you got to have it fast enough to where it scrapes over. There's a fine line in here. But I've found some success with doing that. But the best one, the most safest, is just to take your little propane torch and just warm up the disc and burn off that little, I don't know, eighth of an inch or 3/16 of an inch of fabric that's exposed on the flap. And like I said, everyone's like, oh, it's dangerous, but you're just burning off the paper, that's that fabric that's covering it up. And then quickly, and you see it starting to smoke, hit it on something sharp, and it turns that fabric, it makes that fabric really brittle, and it just wipes it off, and I would say you're 75% back to new again. And it's been confirmed. People have tested my little test there and found that it's to be true. So if you're in a pinch,
Huh.
just warm it up and off you go. I mean, I heard everybody say, "Oh, OSHA's gonna get you for doing on that." I'm sure there is. So I mean, I'm not gonna say don't recommend it, but it works. And it works pretty good. But back to, again, someone's going to argue, just get a good abrasive, and you won't glaze it. So that's where we're back to
Mhm.
teaching you how to not glaze the disc, and we're back to this again. Run the disc at the appropriate speed, run the disc at the appropriate pressure. Once again, if you're grinding on a big flat area, you're going to need more pressure. If you're grinding on an edge, you're going to need less pressure. But being self-aware of how much pressure you're putting on the disc is going to really help with that glazing. So
Okay.
another good example of that is the Cubitron 3. It likes light pressure. It likes between 6 to 4 pounds. It's a very light pressure disc. Where like the Steel Savage, the cheap ones that I recommend you, they like a lot of pressure. They like 8 and sometimes up to 10. They like a little more pressure. So, and someone says, well, Jason, that disc, I think there's a lot of myths around getting a disc and it not working as you intended it to. I think a lot of it is just you're just not using the right amount of pressure. like in our videos, we read the reviews on the discs and then tried to figure out why like some discs have negative reviews. And we've tried to associate that. Well, I bet you that person wasn't pushing down hard enough. Or I bet you if they said the disc wore out too quickly, they're probably pushing too hard. So I don't know this grinding disc is a whole this is a huge subject that's bigger than what we think it is. So
It's a whole
and it's
science within itself.
it is, I know, and like you said, the mill scale is a whole nother problem. It requires a whole nother set of testing. So, but I
And
guarantee
like,
all these tests are going to do different when we test it on mill scale. So,
yeah.
who
In
knows?
reading the reviews, like just because like I buy a lot of stuff on Amazon, when you read the reviews, a lot of the negative reviews are by people that have no idea what the hell they're doing.
Hmm.
Like I saw one review on a face shield. Somebody posted it on Facebook, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this the clarity in this hood is like just horror, or the clarity in this grinding shield is horrible." And
Yeah.
like you could see the photo where they never peeled the
Oh.
protective film off of it, and so like they brought it, they got it home. They took it out of the box. They put it on. It's like got this hazy view across it, and they go out there and do whatever they're whether it's woodwork and grinding, whatever. And they're like, "Oh yeah, the clarity through this thing is bullshit." And it's like so they send it back, and it's like, dummy, you got to take the protective film off of it. So it's like you got to
Yeah.
take a lot of the reviews with a grain of salt, like a lot of the
Yep.
negative reviews, because some people just don't know how the hell to use things.
Yep. Absolutely. But that's where we're at. We're trying to come up with my own. I'm trying to generate my own opinion, and just because like the internet is just this wild, wild west. You know what I mean? It's like, what do you do with
It
all these
is
opinions? And
still.
I'm like, oh. So that's just me being naturally curious. So, but it's good to be curious. I think we
I
should all be curious and ask the right questions and continue to ask questions. So,
Yeah, it's like that's how you find the source of a problem is you ask why 5 times.
yep.
That kind of blew my mind when I heard that. I was like, okay, why, what like what happened? Okay, this happened. Well, why did that happen? Well, it happened because of this. Well, why did that happen? Well, because of this. And so you ask why 5 times, and you get to the root of the actual problem.
Yeah.
And people always want to stop at like once they answer the first why, they're like, oh, that's why it's fucked up.
Hmm.
No, like dig a little bit deeper. So like I like what you're doing with the data and the independent testing and all that stuff. It's because it's really cool to actually see the numbers and do
Yeah.
scientific testing behind it, because then you're not relying on the opinions, because that's one of the
Hmm.
things in the welding industry that I kind of harp on all the time. Almost every episode I do is you get a lot of folks that have been doing this for 20 years and they've been doing it wrong for 2 decades, and they pass that information off to the next person, and that
Right.
person passes it off to the next person. It's like, no, man, you were wrong 60 years ago.
Hmm.
Here's why you're running into that issue, and it's based on opinion, because it's that tribal knowledge that bad information is then passed down from one generation to the next. So
Yeah.
like having actual factual data, and the testing and stuff that you're doing, it's good to show that information,
Yeah.
because people just they
Absolutely.
they don't understand a lot and they've never been trained properly on certain things. Like you said,
Hmm.
4 to 8 pounds of pressure is like the sweet spot for most wheels. And you get a guy that's 6'5", 300 pounds, running a 4.5 inch angle grinder and just like leaning into it like it owes him
Yep.
money. And he's like, man, these wheels suck. They're just constantly burning up and they're trash. I need something
Yep.
better. It's like,
Yep.
no, why don't you take about 276 pounds off of that and try it?
Yep. Yep.
It's going to run
Or
completely
it,
different.
or if he had this book in his workshop, the boss could be like, I can see that you're pushing hard. Let's find you a disc that likes to be pushed hard, because
Yeah,
sometimes you
we give you
can't
the Steel
train them out.
Savage.
Yeah, get like here's a Steel Savage. It needs that extra pressure. This would be a great fit for you. You know what I mean? Or a good example is maybe you're female. You don't have the muscle mass per se, and you need something just it's just real light and elegant, and it just floats, and you don't have to. It's just the weight of the grinder will just remove it. And so here's a Cubitron 3. This sucker, just the weight of the grinder will make you so efficient, and here you just lightly dainty grind away, and so you can you could fit the grinding disc to your needs a little bit and see. That's kind of where what I discovered from this is like, wow, I've just lumped all grinding discs into one big lump and thought they were all the same, and I'm like, that is
Mhm.
the furthest from the truth. So
Dude, you know what you should do on your website, Jason, is like incorporate AI, but do like a catered experience for grinding wheels, like a personality
Okay.
type. Like you're this type of person. Okay, you're a 250-pound iron worker. We're gonna line you up with the steel savage. Okay, you're
Yeah.
a 115-pound female. You're working in aerospace. You need to go with this, this model over here. You kind of cater the
Yeah.
grinding wheel to the individual, but
I
you could
like
do
that
that through like a
idea.
whole personality type. Like what
Yeah.
what grinding wheel fits you best.
You're right. Like a home hobbyist, like, what do you need a
Yeah,
Cubitron 3? Are you in a big hurry? Okay, no. Well, then you need
you
but
got
your
all weekend.
budget. Yeah, I got all weekend, so you're not in a hurry, but you want a budget. You got a few bucks to throw at this project. Well, what cheap disc can you use that's going to get you where you need to go? And I think that's like Taylor. I like your idea, Taylor making. Who are you? Here's some discs we recommend for you, based off of your
Yeah,
needs and just what your um, the type of work you're doing. I like that. I think we should do that. I think we'll do it.
get you like a little
Easy.
virtual abrasive concierge on the Fireball Tool website.
Yeah, that'll be great. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, is get the right fit for you, for the customer and what you're trying to do. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Definitely.
And it's weird for me in the workshop. I think people find it strange that I actually, me personally, I choose the cheap discs. I think my guys are like, really? You're gonna use the goofy $2.50 Steel Savage disc? I'm like, yep, because I don't feel guilty throwing an expensive one away. I'm not in that big of a hurry anymore. And I want to use just the edge, and I want to be efficient
Hmm.
with that half inch 3/4, and the rest of it, I have buckets full. I'm sure you do too, of half used flap discs that I will never
Smoked
go
wheels.
back
Yep.
to. And you know what? I don't even care anymore. I just use a Steel Savage. I use what I need out of it, and I put it in the garbage can. I don't feel bad anymore. I'm not going to store that stuff anymore. So that's why the cheap discs are just where it's at for me. It's just where it is.
Where do you get those Steel Savage discs at? Because I might need to get some for the
All
school.
right, Fireball. We sell them at
Oh no
Fireball.
shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Get
Add
the Steel Savage at
add that to
Fireball.
my
And
cart too.
you get
I'm building a
what is
shopping
it?
list.
Yeah, Fireball. We sell them. You have the um, what's the small one? There's two different thicknesses. There's the thin and the thick. Uh, and they're both good. I like the thin, because it doesn't contour very well. So if you want to grind something
Hmm.
flat and you're trying to get right down to that base metal, I like the thin. It doesn't have as much thickness to it. You kind of know what I mean by that. It's not like a pillow. So I'll use the thin ones to get real close to base, but then I'll use the thick ones if I'm trying to like contour something like over a radius or a tubing. I like the thick disc for that. So, and then
Okay.
I like the Type 29 discs. Those are the concave where they have a little angle to them. I prefer those, but we sell both the flat and the concave. So, but they're
Okay.
cheap. I think they're just, yeah, just type in Steel Savage at the Fireball Tool website and you can try it. I even have sample packs. This might be cool for you. So we sell a sample pack of Cubitron 2, Walters, all the big name brands, and like one or two discs in there, and you can try them all at the same time. So if you're a viewer and you're just like, I don't know what disc I want, I'm just trying a sample pack, and we've put together a little assortment for you. And
Okay. Yeah, you
I
got
want
the 7 mil and 11 mil.
yep, the 7 mil
Type
is,
27, Type 29.
yep. And like I said, the expectations are low, but they've outperformed every cheap disc out there in our testing. So, and what I've noticed with them is it's the paper that they make the flap out of. It actually wants to get out of the way. Like it doesn't quite glaze as quickly as some of the others, and I think it has something to do with their paper. So I mean, it's an inexpensive disc. It's probably some cheap ceramic, but it seems to work good for the price.
Yeah.
But
Now
yeah,
what?
give it to your
So on
guys.
your, I'm gonna try that out. Your what belts are you using on your go kart sander?
I used to use some off. I go to eBay and I buy some cheap ceramic ones. Nothing crazy. I think I buy like five of them. I think that was like Sunbelt or some no name brand. But then I just switched over to the Cubitron 2 discs, and my gosh, I will probably not go back to the cheap ones. Once again,
Is
good
that the ones that
abrasives.
you're like grinding C clamps and
Yeah.
drill bits and stuff with?
Yep. 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 The Cubitron
Okay.
2. And what's crazy is I hope they come up with a Cubitron 3, because if that is the case, I have enough horsepower on that grinder now to, if the paper transmits the same thing like the flap disc where you get 50% more removal rate, oh my gosh. I can't, that Cubitron 3 is impressive stuff. But yeah, 3M makes a really good product from what I'm seeing.
Okay.
I'm not trying to plug them so
Because
much, but
I want to find
when it works, it
that.
works. That's just what I got. If I find a product that works, I'm going to shout it to the world. So,
Well, I mean, you're on two ends of the spectrum here. Where you got the Steel Savage, and then you get the Cubitron, and there's stuff in
yep.
between for everybody else.
Hmm.
And the reason I was asking because I got a couple of the Broadback 2x72 belt sanders at the shop. I freaking love them. But I'm trying to find, so like what I have for the first like day or so, I get a lot of folks that don't want to use a grinder to take the mill scale off. So when I'm
Mm.
teaching my classes, I'm like, hey, you can go over here, you can use the belt sander. We put the material in a pair of vice grips, and we use the bottom side of the belt, so you can't get caught up in it or anything like that. It's
Okay.
a lot safer. It's very quiet. It's not super intimidating to anybody. But the belts that I get, I usually get like a 36 grit or a 24 grit because it takes off mill scale pretty quick.
Mm.
Um, but they glaze over and they don't seem to hold up really well. So I'm trying to find a couple different varieties to where it's not super expensive to take mill scale off. But they also, I'm going to get some durability out of the belts as well.
Yeah. I would just try the Cubitron 2 and go from there.
Okay.
I noticed the chip that comes off of it actually looks like a piece of metal. Like it's literally shaving off pieces. It's not just little particles, it's actually making chips. So I know it's actually physically
Okay.
cutting. Yeah. So I'm like,
Hmm.
golly. And I think it comes back to, again, a pressure thing. We're learning from the flapsticks. I think we need to figure out a pressure. That's one of the reasons why they're glazing, is because there's
Hmm.
not enough pressure. So you're actually
Oh, okay.
skipping over it. And when the media is sliding across of it instead of cutting it, that's what glazes it. So push harder if they're glazing.
Okay. I'm gonna
So
have to try that out.
being aware of that. I think there's a lot to do with us as humans. We are probably, um, like you said, if they're glazing too fast, I think it's probably more human error potentially into it,
Okay.
not pushing hard enough. So that's what a glaze means. And so that's
I got
where
you.
the light pressure, even on the flap discs, they'll glaze fast. They almost glaze immediately with not enough pressure.
Okay. No, that makes sense because I can get a lot more life out of them than a lot of the folks that come to class. But I mean, they're just
Yeah.
learning how to use that equipment for the first time. I get a lot of IT people. Yeah, I get a lot of people that are kind of like not involved in blue collar,
Hmm.
trades that come in and take the classes. So that kind of makes sense because, like I said, there's a little bit of an intimidation factor when you go up and start using tools that are rotating, especially after I cover the safety aspects of everything.
Yep.
Um, I actually had one guy, and like not I don't know what's the best way to put this. Not disparaging him by any stretch of the imagination, but he was like super jacked, like
Mm.
bodybuilder type dude, just muscles, like super macho guy. And I was like, damn, like this dude's yoked. And he come in to take the class. And I went over like all the welding stuff. Here's like welding safety. Here's the equipment setup. I do a demonstration on, here's how we're going to utilize gas metal arc welding because that's what we start off on day one. And, then I went through the grinder tutorial on the belt sanders. If you guys aren't ready to use a 4.5-inch grinding wheel, here's how you use this tool. And then for those that that are familiar with a grinder or you want to try out the grinder, here's how you use it safely. And as soon as I turned everybody to, their booths to go ahead, go set up your machine, get your grinders set up, or use the belt sander, clean up your material, go ahead, tack things up, and I'll come by and I'll work with you one on one. As soon as everybody went, to their separate stations, this guy comes up and he's like, "I can't do this." And I was like, "Oh,
Really?
okay, you're not comfortable with." I said, "Don't worry, like I'll stand right there at your booth. I'll work with you one on one. We'll get you to the point to where you're comfortable doing this." He's like, "You don't understand. I am not going to do this." And I was like, Okay, like if you change your mind, like I will help you. I'll be right there every step of the way. I'll do another demonstration. We'll work a little bit more one on one. He's like, nope, I appreciate your time. I gotta go.
Wow.
I was like, okay. Like I didn't think that I made that class that scary when it comes to safety
Who would
because
have
I didn't
thought?
show the graphic videos like we did on the YouTube video. But
Yeah.
yeah, he checked out. He was like, I'm out of here, man. I was like, wow,
Not for everybody.
no, it's not.
Metalworking, yeah, I mean, you a good example of that is, I was wearing so let's take I don't wanna change the subject on it, but what is your opinion on gloves around rotating equipment? I know there's
I
the
don't use
real
them.
I know there's the real, but what is your general opinion on r gloves around rotating
So
stuff?
most rotating equipment, I don't use gloves.
Mhm,
Um, like the belt sander and stuff, I will use gloves. But if I'm working up on the tool rest side of the belt, I will not wear gloves. So I'll
mhm,
use either like pliers or vice grips or whatever to manipulate the part when it's close to the tool rest. The bottom side, I've got no problem using gloves only because it's not going to catch on anything. If it does, it's just going to bump the glove.
yeah,
When it comes to a grinder, I always wear gloves on a grinder or when I'm using a grinder, and people tell me, "Oh yeah, like you shouldn't use gloves on a grinder because you can get your gloves wrapped up in the wheel." And it's like, no, I have the guard on the grinder, and my hand is on the handle. And as long
yep,
as I've got one hand on the tool, one hand on the handle, I can't get my glove caught in the wheel because it's nowhere near the wheel. When it
mhm.
comes to the mill, I use I'll use like the what the hell is it? Not latex, but the oh damn it, what's the kind of like medical gloves, but not latex.
I know what you're talking about, nitrile
Gosh damn
or,
it. Nitrile. Yeah, nitrile gloves.
nitrile?
So
Yeah,
I'll use nitrile gloves on that because if it does catch, it's gonna rip the glove, not my hand. It
yeah,
won't pull my hand into the rotating part. But typically if I'm
mhm,
running the mill, I don't put my hands gloved or ungloved by any, on an end mill or anything like that. It's always
yep,
off. I'll stop the machine and then I'll clear chips out of the way or whatever.
yep.
What's your take on it?
Everything you said, I'm everything you said, I do, and I agree with you
Okay.
100%. The reason why this comes from is, the belt grinder video where I did have my gloves on, um, but I'm aware of my position of my hands. What I mean is, if
Mhm.
I know that I'm grinding something this big, I think there's a just case for everything. If I know I'm grinding something this big and I want to take the edges off and my hands are going to be this far back, I'll wear
Yeah.
gloves, right? But if I'm grinding something small, oh yeah, there's no way I'm wearing gloves if I'm going to hold something
Yeah.
close up to the wheel. I think there's a level of
Situational dictate.
situation. If I'm grinding this piece of tubing right here, and I'm going to deburr the end, I'll wear gloves because the likelihood of this being sharp out here and cutting me is probably higher than because this is super sharp. I'd rather have
Mhm.
gloves just to protect my hands from cuts versus the risk of me getting sucked in by being 6 inches away is probably few and far between. So I think
Right.
there's a level of common sense that is associated with that. But generally
Mhm.
purpose, like everything you said was 100% true. And I agree with it 100%. But that's one thing that was weird in the comment section about how many different opinions there were about gloves on rotating equipment.
Yeah.
And when do you use it? When do you not use it? It's like just to blanket everything and say you can't wear gloves around a piece of rotating equipment is strange. Like I said, how
Mhm.
far away am I from the actual machine? Am I gonna take my gloves off because I'm 3 feet away on a tube? You know what I mean? No,
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna yeah. So it's kind of like there's this I don't know. That's an interesting topic to explore, but I hate going into safety in any of my videos. It's kind of like you stay away from politics and safety because it just opens up
Yeah.
too many weird opinions on that. But I 100% align with everything you've said. So that's exactly what I
When
do.
we did the grinder safety video on weld.com there, and that was one of the things, like I knew somebody was going to say something like don't wear gloves when you're operating a grinder, and it's like, no, I've got enough cuts on my hand from not
Hmm.
wearing gloves with a grinder that I'm going to wear gloves with a grinder. And again, I'm not going to put my hands near the rotating bits because if I'm grinding something, it's either in a vise or it's clamped down. So I can have both hands
Yep.
on the tool. Now, if I'm being a dumbass or complacent and I'm holding the part in one hand and I'm grinding with the other, yeah, like,
Hmm.
A, I'm not gonna do that, but yeah, that's not a good time to be wearing a glove. Um,
Yeah.
but if you're using the grinder properly, which I always do, especially after making that video because it brought a lot of things home to me.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm always gonna wear gloves when I'm operating a grinder, and if for some reason I need to hold a part and run the grinder at the same time, I'm not gonna hold it with my hand. I'm gonna use a different tool.
Yeah.
Like, so I've got like those
Yeah.
little 2-inch roll locks. If I'm gonna like knock a burr off a piece of square tube or a round piece of pipe, and I'm gonna get my hands close, it's always like a little 2-inch roll lock that I'm gonna just kind of zip around or whatever.
Hmm. Hmm.
But there's nothing to get caught up in any piece of rotating equipment with one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't. It's hard to just have one blanket statement to say no gloves or gloves over around rotating equipment. It's just too much gray area a little bit there, and every case is a little different. So, but as we're just being smart and just being a wise craftsman, that comes into
Yeah.
play. Yeah, but what do you? It's going back to your student that left. Um, is it? Do you think it was some of those rules that just scared them away because it's just it's just too overwhelming because you always have to tell them the risks of how to handle this equipment? You think?
It it could be that, or it could be some sort of, I hate to use this word, like triggering event, only because I had a local group of podcasters come in and they did like a video at my shop, and I showed a couple of them how to weld. And one person I was gonna say, I was like, hey, like, come on, it's your turn if you'd like to try it out. And they were like, no. They had, I don't want to get into too many details, but they had a bad experience with fire and heat sources as a child, and so
Hmm.
they were like, anything like super hot flames, sparks, or whatever, just they had like a reaction. I don't want to say allergic reaction, but they had like a reaction to it. To like, no, I'm not getting anywhere close to that. And I was like, okay, cool, like no problem. I'm not going to force you to come and do this. If you want to, it's here. I can show you the safe way to do it. If not, not a problem. So I don't know if it
Yeah.
was that he was afraid that he was going to get hurt, or if he had
Hmm.
some sort of, like something fired up from back in the childhood to where, he got messed up with fire or a heat source or a grinder
Yeah.
or, whatever. Um, but yeah, I was like, okay, cool. Like I said, if you get to the parking lot or you get home, like you paid for the week. If you want to come back at any time, like I will work with you 100%. I want you to be comfortable with this and have fun with it. And you
Yeah.
can, but you just have to respect the tools
Yeah.
and use them
I think
properly. And
I think that's where where I'm still an advocate for starting the kids young, because
mhm,
in junior high, I started in junior high school, and it's like getting
yeah.
exposed to that young when you're dumb a little bit, where you're like you almost try to throw safety to the wind when you're in junior high school and high
Yeah,
school. You're almost so dumb you're not aware of the problems, but you don't over scare yourself either. You know what I mean? You're
yeah,
not scared to jump in, or not, or how does it, you don't scare yourself to not use that piece of tool or equipment. And you get used to it and develop some confidence. But exposing these kids to these power tools and these welding and the sparks and the fire, and at a young age, I think goes a long way for when they're in adulthood to just
yeah.
uh, to be comfortable with
The
this stuff.
curiosity is good. I think like middle
Yeah.
school, high school, you still have that invincibility factor. You still have that, hey, I wonder what would happen if
Yep.
mentality. And
Hmm.
you kind of like, again, throw safety and caution to the wind, and you're like, hey, what would happen if we tried this?
Yep.
And then it's not till later on that you're like, damn, we
That
lucked out on that one.
been there, done that. I mean, I'm
Yep.
going through that with my son right now. He's been in the workshop the past few years. I'm like, don't do this, don't do that. I can tell you why, but he has to discover it for himself almost. And it's like, no matter what dad tells me, I'm gonna try shooting something out of that air nozzle. That nail is
That
going
was
in
one of
this
the
air
analogies I was going
nozzle,
to use.
and we are gonna shoot this thing, even though dad told me not to, so it must be cool. And so no matter how many times you tell them not to do it, they're gonna do it anyway. But there's a stickler in my workshop for safety. I try to be as safe as possible, but sometimes you just gotta you do what you gotta do. Sometimes the guard comes off the grinder just because you gotta take it off. That's just the way it goes sometimes to get the job done. Is it the right thing
I'll
to
tell you
do?
this.
But,
No,
but yeah,
yeah. Like I did that video with weld.com, and one of the things I said is if you can't get to if you can't do the work with the tool with the guard on it, you need a
Mm,
different tool.
okay.
And so that it's something that I said because have I used a grinder without a handle and a guard? Thousands of times. Like, I built
Yeah.
my career on using tools improperly to make them do things they weren't designed to do to get something done, right?
Yep.
But as soon as I said that in front of, like, not really a live studio audience, but like the masses of YouTube,
Hmm.
I've never not had a guard on my grinder. And when
Okay.
people come to my shop, if they're going to test and I say, hey, that guard or that grinder doesn't have a guard on it, doesn't have a handle, leave that in your toolbox. You can use one of mine.
Hmm.
If you can't get to it with that tool, you need a different tool. You don't need to
Okay.
modify the tool you got. You need a different tool, whether it's an end grinder, a little dot co, something, a burr bit, whatever. That's and it's just as soon as I said it, it's stuck with me ever since.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think part of it is just I don't have the other tool. I think that's the
No bullshit.
problem. I do now,
You got
but
all
when
if
I was
anybody's got the tools, you got the tools.
early on, I think that was the hurdle is that I didn't have some of the other tools that I possibly needed. So what do? You
Yes.
modify or don't put the guard back on. But I would agree,
Yep.
99% of the time the guard can stay on the grinder and it is not necessary to take off. It's just once it's off, it just kind of stays off. And
Yep. Never
when's
gets
the
put
next
back
time?
on. You're like,
It
I
never
don't have
gets
time
put
to put
back.
that back on there.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
worked with I worked with a guy, we called him Gadzuki, and it was like ironworker nickname or whatever, but he modified his guard. So he took
Mm,
like the guard, it wraps around half inch of the wheel. He took an inch off either side so he can get into tighter spots, but still have a guard on the grinder. And I thought that was I was
okay.
like, yeah, that's pretty intuitive. Like that'll get you into a tight spot without having to sacrifice, the
Yep.
safety factor. I haven't
I,
modified any of mine, but I was like, yeah, man, props to that one, man.
that is one tool component I think it needs to be revised is the guard.
Yeah.
How do we make a better guard? Because I think what that's the problem is that we want to remove it. So let's look at
Mhm.
why it needs to be removed, or is there a better way we can? I don't know. I think it just needs to be explored a little better, and especially how do you put it back on quicker? How do you take it back off? Maybe I really don't want to take it off, but sometimes you need to take it off to put the disc on, and then
Mhm.
put it back on. But yeah, the guard is something that I think needs to be. Uh, is there? Yeah, what do you do to make it more user friendly so it doesn't have to ever come off? But like you said, there's other tools out there available if you need to remove it. So it's just. That's what do you do? But yeah, what we do without behind closed doors is our own thing. But yeah, being on camera, that's another whole story because we should
Yeah.
be following the rules and leading by example. But
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's a huge responsibility that a lot of what influence I use that term so loosely.
yeah,
Influencers have is like do things the correct way because somebody's going to watch you and be like, and it may not even be the intended, outcome. You could be showing them
yeah,
something completely different, and if you're not doing one thing correctly, like that's what they're going to focus on. They're like, oh, I see on the table his guard doesn't have a grinder or whatever. He's not
hmm,
using safety glasses when he's cutting or whatever. Like be vigilant of that shit because a lot of people are gonna like watch that video and then they're gonna go right out to their garage and they're gonna try that shit. So
yeah,
be careful.
yep.
And I think
I'm
that's just a
victim.
responsibility that people have that are putting out content for the public.
Yeah, I'm victim of that. I know I have a video coming out that my guard isn't on my grinder. I'm like,
Uh oh,
do we cut this
cut that
out of
out.
here?
Yeah.
Do I want the
Was it Conrad?
hassle?
Conrad's your editor?
Yeah, Conrad. Yeah, cut it out, Conrad. I was
Conrad,
like,
cut that
okay,
part out, man.
we don't want that in there. We don't want the haters to get on me.
Just blur
But
it out.
yep.
Now,
But
you
yeah.
brought up gloves earlier. Have you
Hmm.
thought about doing because you did the whole side by side comparison with the grinding discs? Have you thought about doing it with PPE? Because there's like a metric shit ton of guys and gals on Instagram that have like, oh, this is the best glove. This is a cut level 3. This is, this, that, and the
Mm.
other thing. It's the best glove, the most comfortable, the most durable, the most, longevity, like whatever. Have you thought about doing a side by side comparison with different glove manufacturers?
I would love to do that. Like, I am down for that. Any suggestions? I'm ready to go. I love
Oh
the
yeah,
science. I love the data. Those are my favorite. These are my favorite videos. Those are my favorite jobs to do. The testing. Like, I eat that up. If when I come into work today and I go, oh, today is testing day, we get to test this. I am like this. I'm like super happy. It's the same feeling that I used to get when I was early in my career welding and fabrication when you're building stuff. This
hmm
testing now is my new adrenaline high. Like, oh, let's go learn something about these products and we make a difference. But yeah, I'm down for more of that. I love that. I call it shop science. I love the shop science behind it, and having um, no bias towards something. I can just go into it and then just have this loose mind of like, okay, let's just try to find something the best way possible.
yeah,
Let's test thoroughly, because ultimately, if I skew the tests, I'm only hurting myself because
yeah,
I want to use the best one also. So I don't want to skew the tests. So I think that's what everybody's like. Jason, you're testing your tables incorrectly. I'm like, I have to use my own welding tables. Why would I make them worse?
yeah.
Why would I falsify my own product because I use it here in my workshop? So anything.
hmm
Why would I falsify the grinding test? Because I want to use the best. Like, ugh. I think that's where people get me confused, is that I'm not a user of my own tool or not a user of the products that I'm selling or pitching, but I truly am. So there's no reason why to falsify it, in my opinion. But yeah,
Yeah.
gloves. I'll take some. I'll put that on the list. I like that.
I think that'd be a good one, just for the fact that I think I get these messages every day from
Okay.
a group over in, we'll just say, the Mid East, and they're like, "Hey, we'll like build you a glove. You can put your own logo or spin or name or whatever on it." And I think there's a lot of folks that are doing that, and they're all selling the same rebranded gloves,
Mm-hmm.
which happens with a lot of stuff in the welding industry. Like, a lot of stuff's like what they call white label. It's just rebranded. It's the same product, different color, different name on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, if you could put together like head to head challenge with, like different gloves, okay, you say it's a cut level this, or it's flame retardant, or it's highly, it really stands up to the heat or whatever. Like, let's go ahead and put it to the challenge. Let's put everything under 600-degree heat, or whatever the case may
Yeah.
be.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll add that to the list. I like that. Consumables are always one of those things like, oh my gosh, what consumable do I buy? So consumables are huge when it comes to, because you got to buy them over and over and over again. So you want to make sure you're getting the best value out of your purchase. But yeah,
Oh, for sure.
I love it. Yeah, consumables are it's like anything consumable, wheels, tires, boots, anything that wears out, I hate buying. Like, I dread it.
Yeah,
Belts. I was like, oh my gosh, no, more welding gas, more of this, more
more
wire.
stuff
Like,
to buy.
oh, it's
That's
like,
why
does
I'll
it?
charge like 20% on my bill list for consumables.
Yep, you got to. But yeah, consumables.
Yeah, I think consumables are like the number one killer in the job or in the shop, because you
Mhm,
need cutoff wheels, you need wire, you need gas, you need, all this stuff that it's like, it's kind of like the cost of doing business.
mhm.
And so you got to buy reliable things. So like, like you did your whole test side by side with grinding wheels, cutoff wheels. Like, those are all consumables. I want to get the most out of what I have to spend.
Yeah.
If I'm spending $100 on grinding wheels, I need them to perform for the entire job. I don't want to have to
Mhm.
buy more halfway through. Contact tips, welding gas,
Yep.
wire, all that stuff.
Yep. I agree. Painful. I know
It is.
everybody
But
listening is
I
like, oh
think a
my
side by
gosh.
side comparison with the gloves, I think that would be a cool one, just because there's so many
Yeah,
different manufacturers and everybody claims to be the best.
I'll do it. I'll put my guys on doing some research to start scouting and coming up with some real life tests. I think that's where I shine compared to other people, because I have practical knowledge of how the part or equipment is going to be used. You know what I mean? So
hmm
it's like, okay, I know a glove's going to get close to a wire wheel. What happens if it gets close to a wire wheel? Like, does, does it suck? Does it pull? Does it fray? Just weird shop experiments that can. How does it protect you on these instances that I don't think gets tested in the factory? I don't think the factory knows
hmm
to test a glove against a wire wheel or something. You know what I
No.
mean by that? Like, like to them, they don't have the correlation. Or heat, or like weld spatter is a good example, or
hmm
sparks. You get it on your gloves, does it melt through? Does it? How does that glove work? So, what glove are you currently
Well,
using? I'm gonna see if I can find something comparative. Or do you know a
wh-
brand?
which ones am I using right now?
Yeah, which one? Yeah, what do you
I
have a style that you want me to test?
yes. So I'm like a glove dork. I need to do a video on my gloves because I'm very task specific when it comes to gloves because there's not one glove out there that fits the mold for everything.
Yeah.
Um, for all of my like fabrication stuff, if I'm deburring things, cutting things on the saw, working whatever, I use the Flex Cut from oh, what the hell's the name of that company? P. I'll send you a link to it. I'll pull them
Okay.
up. But like the Flex Cut and the I think it's Flex Fit and Flex Cut. And I'm not
Okay.
sponsored, obviously, because I can't remember the name of the company. But I'll get you the
Yeah.
names of that. And then the other ones were what is it? The mechanics gloves. So
Hmm.
mechanics gloves, like everybody's familiar with the mechanics gloves. They came out with a line called the Torchwear like
Hmm.
a couple years ago at FabTech. I actually had Paul Torch Lesage on one of the podcasts. He developed a lot of the gloves that they did. So they've got like the flux version. They've got one for stick welding that's got like I think it's a cut level 3 or cut level 4 on the inside. Super
Wow.
comfortable, but it's
Okay.
boar's hide. So they figured out a way
Yeah.
to tan boar's hide so it's like really comfortable. Um, the flux line, so the boar's hide one, those are really good for like your stick welding. The flux version, obviously good for flux core welding and self shielded,
Hmm.
gas shielded, but everything's Kevlar stitched.
Hmm.
The flux ones, they've got reinforcement on the knuckles and like the exterior, the backside of the hand where you're going to experience a lot
Yeah.
of that heat.
Hmm.
So I use those for anytime I'm doing flux core. And then they've got a TIG glove it's okay. I mean, it keeps the bulk of the heat off. Um, I think the Slickman TIG gloves, the one with the little skeleton hands on them, that's what
Hmm.
I've been using lately for all my TIG welding, just because I like the dexterity and the fit and the function of those. And then
Yeah.
there's another company that David Madero informed me about. I have their apron. I haven't had a chance to try their gloves out with. It's 1898. So everything's
1898.
like, yeah, it's like very, very high end gloves. That, like I said, the apron is like fantastic. I love that. I'm getting ready to try out some of their gloves. They're a little pricey, but you're gonna get what you pay for at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You can go to the local supply store and you can buy all their white label stuff, and they're going to fall apart. The fingers are going to become exposed. The palm's going to rip open. Your TIG gloves are going to rip
Yeah.
right there between your pointer and your thumb. Like they all face the same issues, but I don't
Yep.
think anybody's nailed that. But I think if you do the comparison, you got to do like what would it have to be task specific. So like all
Okay.
your high amp stuff, or like your heavy detail and like your fine detail. So like here's all your
Okay.
MIG and TIG, and then here's one for like flux and stick.
Yeah. And then maybe like just a general purpose shop glove that
Yeah,
gives you some
just because they're like different
dexterity.
environments.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds really fun. I love it. Well, and cool too. Um, I like just to buy all these on my own and not just get sponsors because I don't want the companies knowing that I'm um,
Doing the
doing it.
research.
Yeah, I like just to buy
No,
it.
sure.
So yeah, they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, just give it to you now. Give us a good review." I'm like, "Nah." So it's like, "No,
Yeah,
I'm
here's
gonna
a
do this
lifetime supply of our
myself."
gloves. Give us a good review.
Yep. I mean,
Um,
it's tempting to get the help from them, but no, I like it.
so ATG is the company I was talking about. They make the Maxi Flex and
ATG.
then the
Okay.
Maxi Cut. So I buy those by the dozen. They're not cheap. And every time I go into my welding supply store, I'm like, yeah, I need a dozen of these. They're like, you realize how much those cost per pair? They're anywhere from like $7 to $12 a pair. It's like, yeah, I need a dozen. They'll last me
Yeah.
about 6 months,
Yeah.
but I mean, they're great gloves.
When you get good gloves like that, if you're like me, I end up losing them more than when before they wear out.
Yep.
I'm like, gosh dang it, where did they go? I know I haven't wore those suckers out. And then you go grab another pair because you don't want to spend 20 minutes looking for them. And then the wife finds
That's
them in
why I
the
buy a
washing
dozen.
machine. Or they're in the car or in the truck. And like, oh, there's where those gloves are in the pickup truck. Okay. Well, I would have never
Yep.
found those.
I got a
So
pair out in the
just,
car by accident because they were in my pocket at the end of the day, and I just folded them up and threw them on the passenger seat. There's one set in the
yep.
office. I've got one over there by the saw. one by the mill.
Oh, I don't know, I'm horrible,
But
and
yeah,
I wear all
they
that
work great.
PPE in my office, and then I take them all off when I sit down at the desk, and then I never grab it again as I leave. And then so like you get 15 pair of safety glasses, your gloves are all piled up on your desk. You got it's like when you're on the shop floor, you go, where is all my tape measures at? Oh yeah, they're upstairs on my desk. Well, it's the problem with, I'm sure you're
So
discovering it too, managing desk work and then working on the shop floor. I've never really had to experience that before. And I'm like, golly, normally it's just tape measure in my pocket when I get into work. My safety glasses go on and I'm on the shop floor the whole day and I never leave. So, but now it's weird
I-
struggling the balance, the work balance, the
I'm glad
office
I'm not the
work
only one
balance.
facing that issue. Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
glad I'm not the only one facing that issue because I thought it was a me thing for a while. Because same thing, like I'll go out and I'll do testing or I'll fabricate or I'll teach a class, and then I'm back in the office doing like paperwork or advertising, marketing, answering emails. And so I've got like an entire cubby in my office that's got like there's my welding cap, my tape measure, like 4 or 5 different pairs of gloves. Like all this stuff is just wedged in there because like I sat down and I didn't want to have it on me while I'm sitting in my chair for the next couple hours. And I just,
Yep.
and then back to the shop. And it's like, where's all my gear at? It's not my
Yep.
toolbox. It's not on the table. Oh shit. Yeah. So I was trying to make it a point not to like bring anything into the office with me. And
Hmm.
I was going good for about like 2 days and then it just went to shit.
Yep. I'm the same way. I'm like, oh. And then before you know it, you truck everything out back down the shop floor and dump it back out where it's supposed to go, and then it just ends up migrating back
Yep.
up to the office again. Like,
Stays there for
okay.
a day or two.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I'm sure people are listening. They're like,
Yep.
yep, that's what happens.
Yeah. Same problem.
Yeah. Yeah, but I didn't need to
So
come
now
up with some sort of
every
tether or
year, like,
something.
oh no, I have tethers and I unclip the tether and I throw everything up there. I use the
Okay.
so on there's on Amazon you can get these things called, they're from a company called Ergodyne. They're called squids grabbers. And
Squids
so they're like
grabbers.
2 little gator clips. Yeah, check them out. You're gonna love them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was invented or made up by an iron worker because they do a lot of tether equipment. So like D ring to a spud wrench, D ring to a hammer. But like they make these little glove clips.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do is I get them off Amazon. They're relatively, I can't remember what they cost, but I think last time I was on there I bought like a dozen because like you take the 2 little clips, they separate. If you get them just so, they'll separate and come apart. So now you got 2 individual pieces, and then I'll put D rings on them. So now for
Oh.
every one that I buy, I can hang up 2 pairs of gloves, and that's like in my toolbox. I've got like an old school knack box.
Mm-hmm.
I've got like a dozen pair of gloves. Like I said, I've got gloves for every occasion, right? So that's kind of how they're hung up inside my gang boxes, just kind of based off of that with those little squids grabbers because they hold the gloves up, and then I can every time I open the gang box, if I don't leave them in the office, they're right on display in a specific order when I go to my
Okay.
toolbox to get what I need. Yeah,
Nice.
check
I'll have
those
to
out.
look those
Those
up.
are pretty slick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I struggle.
they're pretty affordable.
Okay, I struggle with the gloves, so I'm like, I'm always looking for a better solution to store them, keep them accessible, see
Yep.
where they're missing, or because I think I've learned now is the older I get, if it has a home, it will get put back. So
Yep.
if it doesn't have a home, a permanent home, it'll just sit on a tabletop or on top of a piece of equipment or tool. But if your gloves have a home where it can get clipped and that's where they go, I can do better about that. So I like your idea of having that little clip and store it somewhere.
I'll have to shoot you a video. I'll shoot you a video
Yeah.
on Friday and send it to you.
Okay. I know the older I get, I'm getting more particular about my organization. But when I was younger,
Yeah.
it was the wild, wild west, and just get the job done, get paid, get out the door, and get out of the shop. Who cares about cleaning up? We'll worry about that tomorrow morning. But now, as older I get, I'm like, everything's got to have a place now. But yeah, and as you start acquiring more tools and possessions, you almost have to stay organized or else just lose it all. When I didn't have a lot of tools, I didn't really have anything to lose. So, but it's all good. But I
Yeah.
love
I
organization
think it's like,
suggestions.
yeah, I think the older you get, the lower tolerance you have for bullshit. It's kind of like the fuck
Yep.
around and find out curve that the
Yep.
guy's like, oh, the more you fuck around, the more you find out. And it's like the older you get, the less tolerance you have for bullshit. And like the more organized you want to be. It's like, this has to be right here when I need to go get it. I want to grab, I don't want to waste any extra time. I've got stuff to do.
Yeah. And it's like if you're
I
like
think
me now,
there's a
it's
bell
like,
curve to that.
I don't want to. I've spent more time walking around the workshop looking for stuff, and I think my time is now more important. My time is caught up. When I was getting paid by the hour, I'll walk around for a half an hour looking for stuff. Where did I put all those
Yeah.
tools? But when it's my time and I'm expensive, I'm like, I need to go right to the tool and grab it because I got three guys waiting for me to film this thing. I don't have time to walk around and look for my safety glasses or goggles or welding helmet or whatever I'm looking for. That one tool I was using last week, I don't have the tolerance for that anymore, and I just don't want to walk around anymore. I'm not saying as you get older you get a little more lazy.
Too many
So
steps.
yeah, too many steps. But yeah,
Spent the last 10 minutes looking for my welding hood. Turns out it was
oh,
on my head the whole time.
that's right. Yep. Or Sharpie markers. Those are the worst. I don't know where all those go. Pens and pencils
It's
and
right in between your
marking.
welding cap and your ear.
In my back pocket, or I don't know, they just disappear. My wife collects it all at the washing machine, I think is where she finds all my stuff. The lost and found at the washing machine.
That's where all the material markers go to die. All your
Yep.
soapstones, Sharpies, paint markers. Yeah,
Yep.
same.
Nuts and bolts and screws and hardware and yeah.
Earplugs,
Yeah,
industry wide
earplugs,
problem.
that's another problem. It's fun talking about that stuff because I always felt like I'm the only one experiencing it, but it feels good to let it all out and have other people relate to that. So,
Oh yeah, it's an industry wide epidemic, man.
oh, good. Oh, phew. That's
It's a
cool
blue
stuff.
collar thing. It's got to be, man. I like when I do like woodworking and stuff. It turns into pencils. It's
Hmm.
still earplugs, but like now there's pencils instead of soapstone.
Yep, I like it. It's always pencils,
Yep,
writing utensils.
yep,
Yeah, it's
and
fun.
fasteners.
Oh, fast. Yeah, every time.
So now, what do you have? Like every year, you've got something cool going on at FabTech. Are you doing anything different this year? You got something that you're going to unveil, or a new challenge or test?
That's a good question. We as Fireball grows, you've experienced Fireball's growth over the last 10 years. So
Mm-hmm.
we're probably going to need to get a bigger booth because we have more tables than what we're used to. Anything crazy, fun? I'm always after a new game and audience participation because I think that's part of the fun. I don't have anything crazy lined up. We are designing a new booth setup, so it seems like every 3 years or so, all our displays just get destroyed. I don't know what it is about the shipping and back and forth and the storage. All our displays just get wrecked. So I'm designing now. When I say me and Wyatt are designing palletized displays. So when we get to the trade show, we can just drop it off, or the forklift just drops it off, and then we can just uncover it. And they're basically all going to be all metal. So around the base, there'll be like a little skirt to hide the fork pockets. That way, at the end of the trade show, we can just um, leave our stuff there. Basically, just box everything up in the metal things and not have to wait for a forklift to load stuff on pallets. So we're kind of designing all the tools. A good example, like the vises. Um, the vices will have their own display, and like we have a new vice coming out for service trucks. So that will be a new product that we'll probably be displaying. Um, yeah, so the vices, the welding tables, the tooling for the tables are always hard to display, and because they're always coming out with new stuff, and the tables just get cluttered with it. So how do you display
Mm.
that? So FabTech for me is just a display challenge because you got new tools, and how do you display it? Um, and it's tricky, but that's kind of what's new for the trade shows. Nothing that's crazy. I'm trying to think. Is there anything? I do have some new sawhorses, some fixture table sawhorses. Basically, we're taking I beams now and we're turning them into um, fixture table horses. So those will be debuted this year, which is kind of unique to
Oh,
the
cool.
um, there's a personal preference between fabricating on sawhorses and a fixture table. There's Depends on who you talk to. In the big fab shops, sometimes they're just welding on big things. They just need a whole bunch of sawhorses. So we're designing a fixture table sawhorse at a reasonable price. So we'll be debuting those. Oh gosh, what else is there? Smaller tools, like we got a new square coming out this year. This is just
Oh wow.
I always come out with a new square. This is the same thickness as the 8 inches, so inch and a half, but it's the design of this is the biggest outside corner of any of our squares. So holding parts on the outside has always been kind of a um, it's kind of lacking in our product area, and the outside corner is really exposed. So this is just a bigger square than what we normally have because people just want something bigger. I'm just trying to give them everything they want. So we'll display this. Um, Anything crazy?
What are you
Just a
gonna
bunch of
call that
small.
one? Because you already have the monster square. What the that
Yeah,
thing's fucking
I don't.
massive.
I need a name for it, so we haven't really come up and settled on a name. We've kind of called it like the Mystic Square, just behind the scenes. I know that's probably not the name that'll stick, but I'm up for suggestions if you got something. But yeah, it's just people seem to like collecting them too, in a sense to where they almost can't not have the newest Fireball Square. So, but I don't want to make tools just to make them. It needs to have a specific purpose. And this one is more designed with that outside corner in mind. But it gives you the regular inside corner and another bigger corner over here. And it stands up on the table. So it's really tall. I know that was a lot of people like that tall length when you stand it up. Uh, it, why not? You know what I mean? So,
If
I
you're
listened to.
if you're gonna sell that, or if you're gonna make that one out of cast, you need to put a lifting eye on that damn thing.
Yeah, it is. It'll be out of cast. It's about the same weight as our 12-inch wide one, so it's still heavy, but you gain the mass and the length. So,
Okay.
and not necessarily the width. So, but yeah, it's just trying to listen to my customers and give them what they're asking for, and I think that's part of this job too. Is what works for me, or what does how to explain this. If I were to design everything just for me, we'd have a pretty boring product line. And I think
Hmm.
listening to the customer and making something for them, even though I may not use it, is something I'm priding myself in as Fireball continues to grow. A good example of that is like our smaller vices. Like I'm not really into small vices. I like big vices, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't design a small vice. So and that's where the service truck vise is coming in. People have requested a small, compact service truck vise, and so we kind of adapted our 510 to suit that needs. But we've added features to it. Like people are saying, "Hey, I want something that you can't steal." I'm like, no one's ever really thought about that on a vise. Somebody stealing a vise. I mean, that those two don't go hand in hand. But if you're at a service truck, yeah, people will steal a vise. So we've
Yeah.
been trying to design a vise that you can't steal off the back of a service truck, and those are some strange challenges, and we'll debut that at the trade show this year. So all that fun
Your
stuff.
your 5-inch vise, I like that one. That one works perfect for a lot of all the testing strips that I do, all the backing strips.
Yeah,
I've probably put 2,000 strips through that thing, and I love that, and it fits the
good to
table
hear.
perfect.
Good to hear. Was that the little blue one?
Yep.
Yep,
It was
those
perfect.
are.
I had one that was like I think that came when I bought everything off Steph. It was like some little chintzy, I'd have to like use a clamp to tighten to the table. And I was like, okay, this isn't gonna work. Something's gotta match this whole pattern. And I hopped on
Yeah.
Fireball Tool and I was like, okay, cool, perfect. This thing it fits the pattern perfect. I can run the little quickie toggle bolts in and it's done. I need to pick up a
Yep.
couple more because we did the art class with David Madero, and I only had like that one vice in there, and we needed we needed a couple more.
Yeah, I'll have to get you hooked
So
up with
I
the
got to get
fire
some more
with.
before October.
Yeah, I'll have to get you hooked up. But yeah, those little blue vices, those things are really good value for what the for the budget person who's in mind or who needs to outfit several sources or several corners of their table with multiple vices. Those are great value there. Yeah, and they're
Yeah,
strong
and they're I
too.
mean they're tough.
Yeah.
They're tough as hell. I've yet to bend the side pieces. I haven't needed to. That's why I was telling you
Okay.
like do that torsion test because I
Yep.
haven't had to like put a cheater pipe on there and bend those little tabs over.
That's good to hear. I love hearing this feedback because I rarely get to hear it anymore, unless there's a major complaint. But that's the only time I get negative feed or any feedback is only comes through when it's negative. I guess that's how
Yeah,
I feel. You only hear about it if there's a problem. So, but it's good to hear
that's usually how it
positive
goes.
things. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, I love hearing positive
uh,
stuff. But
and
yeah, trade
like all the
show.
stuff that I've gotten off you is it's like high end. I love it. Like I told you,
Oh,
I'll
good.
send you that picture on Friday of the fab tree with all the fireball stuff on there. I'm still gonna add to it, but
Yeah.
yeah, one dude came in. He's like, dude, you need to patent that thing. And I was like, dude, if I patent this thing, as soon as I put it up for sale, somebody's going to turn around and they're going to make it and they're going to sell it for, 30% of what I can actually get out of it for building it.
Yeah. No, I want to see it. Now you got my curiosity. Send me some pictures.
It's
That'd be
literally
cool.
nothing special. It's a freaking piece of pipe on basically an IV stand, and
Hmm.
but it holds. I didn't want to build a table to hold all my tools because the table's just a flat surface to collect a bunch of crap. And
Yep.
so I wanted something that's like kind of purpose driven, but I can modify it if I had to. So
Yeah.
it'll make sense. I'll send you some. So I'll do like a quick video on Friday and send it to you.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, trade show stuff, that's kind of all that's really new this year. So we'll have a new backdrop and a new look. So we've been kind of focusing on that, and a good handful of small tools there of new stuff.
Okay,
But yeah,
you can do like
that's
another
good.
challenge.
We always do the Vice challenges, but I'm always up for more suggestions if somebody's got a new idea of something to do. I'm trying to incorporate something with the fixture tables, but I think that kind of scares people away. People just love to turn that handle on that vise. I don't know what it is. It's just like this. It's easy for it to explain. So um, as they're passing by, but yeah, more challenges. They'll always have the vice challenge going. But if you got another suggestion, I'm always down to hear it. I love the tests.
Okay,
Those are the fun. Those
yeah,
are so fun.
no, they're pretty slick, and it's funny because like your booth and the booth that has the robotic arm that pours the beer, they're
Uh
the
huh.
only two booths at FabTech that have a line.
Right.
So there's
That's
there's like
crazy.
there's people waiting. There's people waiting to go check out your stuff. And I think do you see the video that Jason from Chasson Smoke put out last year about he was training to do the Vice challenge, and then I
Uh
think he
huh.
went to your booth and like he didn't get it.
Well, it's
But it was
it's
still pretty
now a
neat. He put that video together like training year round to like try to get the perfect pressure with it.
And he has the vice too. That's what's even funnier.
Right. Yeah.
But there, it's now almost a tradition to go to FabTech and go squeeze the vice, because now it's been like, wow, how
Mhm.
many years? 5 years now, and people are like, I'm back for the fifth year and I haven't won yet, and I have to try it every year to get close. So now it's a tradition to see how they do, or win a prize. But yeah, so it's
Yeah.
pretty fun, and I love seeing people's reaction when they try it, and they squeeze on it and they get a really high number. They're like, whoa, that is. I can't put that into perspective, because like 15,000 pounds. What the heck? That was just so easy, and it's hearing that feedback from them. Like, yeah, that's pretty awesome, isn't it? Or they walk around the corner
Mhm.
and go, "Whoa, look at that vise," and they just almost stop in their tracks. Like, that's the biggest vise I've ever seen. And I love seeing those first reactions. It was so
Well, now
neat.
that you've been doing it for the past couple of years, like people have been training themselves to kind of dial it in,
Yep.
put it in the blacksmith vice this year.
Yep. Yep. No, yeah, absolutely. Gonna do that one for sure. Yeah, people are just like, what the heck? This is crazy. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, those are fun. I'm trying to think of something else to do though that uses that load cell. I think there's um some other fun projects we can do with that. But yeah, the load cell is always a hit with the crowd.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And it's quick
fun
too. You
stuff.
can get a lot of people through pretty fast, pretty efficient.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. But yeah, we got more
I'm looking forward to
questions.
it. It's the first time this will be the first time it's in Vegas, so I'm looking forward to oh, it's the first time I'll be doing it in Vegas.
Okay.
So last time it was in Vegas, it was like 2022 or yeah, 2020, and they canceled it because of COVID or whatever. So like
Yep.
now it's coming back to Vegas. This will be my first time doing FabTech Vegas. So
It's been
looking forward to it.
forever. Yeah, me too. And having FabTech and for me SEMA back to back in the same place, that's
That's got to be
convenient.
grueling.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I have a week off in between, but it's really not really a week off. But that's a lot of trade show back to back. So
Yeah.
that's exhausting. And there's nothing worse than
I
living out
like
of
a
a
month or two.
suitcase. Yeah, a month or two
Yeah.
apart is
Yeah.
that's where you need to
A
recoup.
month or two between conferences, I'm good to go.
Yep.
Well,
But
awesome, Jason. It's been a blast catching up with you. I know we talked about doing this a while ago. We still got to like come up with that mystery science theater fabrication series or whatever. I think that'd be kind of neat to
yeah.
do. But yeah, looking forward to checking you out over at FabTech this year. Always a blast swinging by the booth, chatting with you, and having you on the podcast. Before we get out of here, go ahead and plug all your different social medias. I know you're on Instagram and YouTube, and just pretty much anywhere and everywhere. But tell folks where they can find you.
Yeah. The easiest place is just go to fireballtool.com. And then it's the same Fireball Tool at YouTube, Fireball Tool Instagram and TikTok. And we're on Facebook. Yeah, the fireballtool.com, and we're pretty easy to find.
Great branding.
Easy to remember.
Yes, sir. Well, awesome. Once again, thank you, sir, for coming out on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
All right, ladies and gents, that is all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for downloading the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're finding these conversations beneficial, please do me a favor and share the episode with a friend, coworker, or anyone else you think would find value. And if you have a minute, drop me a comment on Spotify and leave the show a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really helps support the show. I hope you'll have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.